a pregnant woman while shooting at soldiers. That's how I
I understand
think.
what you're describing. That's not really what we mean when we say human shields. But okay, cool.
All
They're
right.
embedded
So
in
now,
the civilian population.
all right. So now you agree that Hamas is a terrorist group.
We can discuss that. I condemn
You said
Hamas.
that in you said that with your previous caller.
Make it relevant, make an argument, and then we can discuss the implications of your
Fine. So
premises.
now, so I'm getting there. So Hamas is a terrorist group. Israel needs to eradicate Hamas. Hamas is intertwined with civilians. How does Israel go about eradicating the terrorist group that created this horrific attack on October 7th? To protect
Okay.
the
The
Israeli people.
IDF is a terrorist organization. How should the Palestinians go about eradicating the IDF?
I asked you first. I asked you a question. I'll let you,
Well, no, no, no.
you can ask me
I think my
afterwards.
answer
Go ahead.
is when the answer is the IDF is a terrorist
No,
organization. How
that's
do you
not,
suggest that
no,
Palestinians get out
no.
the IDF?
I
Right?
mean,
It
come on,
matters.
Will. Come on. We're adults, right? We're having a debate. I asked you a question. You don't answer my question with another question. Answer me.
No,
IDF
no,
has a
you
responsibility
understand
to
what
the.
I'm saying. One second. You understand what I'm saying,
Of course, I
which is
understand.
that
What
this is war, right?
so hold on.
And
So if it's
we've
war,
seen so I'm trying to answer you. If you're going to bitch and moan about me answering your question, what should you let me do?
go ahead.
Answer it. Wonderful. So, what do we do when terrorists are within civilian populations, right? We've seen examples of this, right? Osama was living within a civilian population. A huge amount of terrorist organizations, like you think the Taliban has separate military areas? Do you think militias, right, which are incredibly common? Switzerland's a militia state. Militias exist throughout the world. It's just a different type of warfare. It doesn't, and international law accounts for the existence of militias, right? What we do is we send in special ops when it's incredibly urgent, right? We send in special ops that do incredibly precise, targeting to the leaders who, by the way, the leaders from Hamas are living in Qatar, so they don't really, bombing Gaza doesn't really make sense to take out the leaders of Hamas.
Well,
But
Hania is in Gaza.
there are a series of leaders, but some of them live in Qatar.
Right.
But as to the point, um, is what you do, not this, right? You don't unilaterally cut off food to the civilians. You don't unilaterally cut off water to the civilians. You think Hamas was the first one to think of living within civilians, right? No, obviously not, right? Most, Russia lives within civilians in some cases, but it doesn't justify us killing Russian civilians. So the thing is what, from my view, the best solution, genuinely, would be to stop giving them reasons to be violent. Okay, Hamas is not violent for no reason. I don't support Hamas. I'm not justifying Hamas, but they are not violent for no reason, right? You could predict, right, if someone told you the conditions within Gaza, that there would be terrorism within that area. If you looked at the economic conditions and the oppression they were under, you'd be like, yeah, there's basically no situation where there isn't violence here. So Hamas is a symptom, not the problem itself. So you solve the problem itself, which is the absolute oppression and occupation that they've been under since 1948, right? And once that's solved, if there is, there may be still excess institutions that are overly violent or overly extremist. Those are dealt with and moderate, typically themselves, but can moderate, be internationally moderated, like we saw in Serbia and Kosovo. Right, we've seen these structures work before, but I think the Israeli position of Hamas goes first, along with anything remotely close to it, and then we can kind of pretend to talk about things that are, in any way humane. I don't think that's the order. I think you solve the problem first, and then you deal with the symptoms after. But you've got it backwards.
Okay. So in 2005, when Israel took their civilians and rooted it from their homes and gave the region to the Gazans people, that was still an oppression. That was still.
Was Israel in line with the international obligations that they had at that time?
You keep answering my questions with another question. I'm
No,
trying
no,
to.
no. So you asked me a question, and it's really, really simple if you answer it. Was Israel within its international obligations at that time in 2005?
Israel won a war in 1948. They were
Do
just,
you know
they were,
can you
and
answer my question? Because you've answered none of my questions yet. Could you answer my question?
I thought I have.
Yeah, it's a yes or no question. Was Israel in 2005 within its international obligations when it pulled out of Gaza?
Yes.
No, they weren't. Okay, cool, cool. That's why I asked the question. It's to see if you actually know or if you're just going to arguably disagree. No, they were not. Okay? The international obligation is to return to the pre 1967 borders. Pulling out of Gaza was a tactical move that was required, and the official reasoning for that tactical move was demographic shifts. Right? That was not to protect the Palestinian people. That was not to respect the people's right to self actualization or autonomy. It was because they're racist and they didn't want Arabs and they didn't want Palestinians to be within their land and be able to vote within their land and be able to be part of Israel because they want a Jewish state. So when we talk about 2005, the reasoning that they gave is really, really important. And the official reasoning that they gave for Gaza wasn't out of care for Palestinians, wasn't out of care for international law, wasn't out of protection of the Palestinian women and children, right? Wasn't to reduce terrorism in the area. None of those. It was a racist apartheid policy that wanted to keep Arabs out of the land because they knew that if there were more Arabs in the land, it would threaten the Jewish majority that Israel is fundamentally based on. Okay. So, yes, the actions in 2005 100% are not only a symptom, but are the fundamental problem that Hamas is fighting against, which is the Zionist apartheid state. So
Okay.
yes, that is still
So,
oppressed. And they
uh,
are then also since 2012 they've had a complete air, water and land blockade. Okay? And that is both an act of war and an act of occupation. So since 2012, they have been occupying Gaza. Okay, so if you want to talk about the brief 7-year period, right, where they didn't technically occupy Gaza, we can talk about that. They still had acts of war against Gaza in that time, but that's not the reality now, and that wasn't the reality on October 7th.
okay, let's agree with that. Your assertion that the reasoning that the Israel gave behind it is completely wrong. The fact of the matter is that Gaza was in complete control, Palestinians were in complete control of Gaza at 2005, right? They had money. How come they didn't build up Gaza to be the wonderful area that it could have been? And to point to your apartheid state, do you know how many Arab Muslims are currently living in Israel that
And
are,
do you know how many Africans were in South Africa?
hold on a second. Hold on. You're saying they're apartheid, right? You know, there's Muslims and Arabs that are not only in the military, they're in Congress, they're in the Knesset, they vote, they have just as much right as any given Jew born in Israel.
Do you know how many like black Africans there were in South Africa that were nurses and doctors in the military and in
No, I
elected
don't know, but
positions?
that's by definition not an apartheid state.
South Africa was an
I'm
apartheid
not talking
state?
about South Africa. I'm talking about Israel.
Then I suggest you do know when you speak, because there were black Africans, right, in the military and who could vote in certain cases and were nurses and doctors and were in elected positions,
I'm talking about
right?
Israel.
That's not what apartheid is.
I'm
When
talking about.
when a country posits its foreign and domestic policy on maintaining a majority of a given ethnicity, the Jewish ethnicity, right? That is a fundamentally racist ethno-state. And when it limits the rights of people of a certain ethnicity that those people have internationally, namely the right of return and the right to family life, right, which are recognized in the UN Human Rights Charter, only based on their demographics, that is an apartheid state. So the denial of the Nakba refugees, right, which they have an international right of return to Israel, right, that is a symptom and the fundamental problem in the apartheid state. Same thing with the rights to enter Area A, B, and C, right? Differ whether you are Jewish or Arab, regardless of your Israeli citizenship. That is a fundamentally racist apartheid state. So you can point to exterior examples. You know, this is actually exactly what apartheid leaders in South Africa did. They said, look, there are so many rich black Africans. There are plenty of rich black Africans. They just happen to be the extraordinary minority. And there are plenty of,
Fair enough.
but there are plenty of rich Arabs within Israel. There are plenty of Arabs that do well in Israel, but that doesn't mean that Israel isn't actively working against that ethnicity and isn't actively having racist and fundamentally apartheid-based policies, which they
Okay.
absolutely are.
And how many Jews are in Qatar?
Wait, are we just going to move past the argument? Why are we talking
Well,
about Qatar, brother?
because we're gonna
You're gonna
that's
wait.
the
I'm
point.
a gay man. I'm a gay man. That still hurt my neck with that whiplash. That's incredible because I got a
Because
strong
we
neck, brother. But
like
like, what are you
fair enough.
talking about? Do you wait? Are you how? Can I ask how old are you?
Of course, 40.
How old are you?
40.
So you're a fully grown adult.
I'd like to think so. Yeah, I mean, I'm kid at heart,
So
but
you
yeah.
know that that's dishonest as fuck.
Not really. It's not dishonest. When two people are debating a certain topic, and one strongly believes one side, and the other one strongly believes another side, we're just gonna keep going around in circles. But I was getting to a point
So
where
you're just not going to engage in an argument
no,
then.
I will. I
Every
will.
time you have nothing else to say on something, you're just
No,
going to randomly pivot to something
no, I was gonna
else.
try to make a point that all
Okay,
the
try to make a point then.
all the Arab countries are also apartheid because there are zero Jews living there, zero Jews that are in parliament,
How
zero
many
Jews
Jews live in Iran?
a lot. I didn't say all of
Is
them.
that zero?
I didn't say all of them. I said
Okay.
most. Right? So then
I mean, no,
Qatar.
you said all.
I did. Okay, I apologize. I'll take that back. A lot of them, if not most
Okay,
of them.
why are there fewer Jews in, for
Hold
example,
on.
Saudi
Wait
Arabia
a
than there were
second. Wait.
previously?
But wait. Don't say why. Just are they an apartheid state?
I don't think it's relevant to the discussion because I'm not suggesting we fund Saudi Arabia or that we fund Qatar. I don't agree ideologically with Qatar either.
Okay. So you have no problem with any state being apartheid as long as the U.S. is not
Wait,
funding.
no, wait. You're such a liar. Try that
Why?
again.
What did I just say? I just said that you
Think,
you don't
I'm
want.
just we're just going to be silent for 2 seconds. Think back through the past three sentences I just said, and then the sentence you just said, and see if those line up.
You said that you have no issues with them as long as the U.S. is not funding them.
No. No,
Right. That's what you. It's literally what you said. Maybe I misheard
it's
you.
not.
Okay.
Okay, I think we misheard. I
Okay.
said I'm not suggesting the U.S. funds them either.
Okay. But are you calling them an apartheid state or no?
I'm saying that's not the discussion.
I'm asking you a question aside from the discussion.
Make it relevant.
That there are
Do you know
other.
what? Sorry, do you know what a whataboutism is then?
What about? No, I don't actually.
Okay, a whataboutism is when you take is when I say if I said,
Oh,
"Hey,"
actually,
if
I
someone
do.
hits
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
and then I say, "Hey, that was
yeah,
mean. You hit me," and then
yeah,
they
yeah.
say, "Well, look at all those other people that hit people. Why aren't you talking about them?
Fair,
What they did is also bad. It's just not relevant to you hitting me, brother."
fair, fair.
So if you
Listen,
want to make a comparison, make a
I
comparison,
hear you.
right?
Listen,
But what
I
I
can tell you.
explicitly said was that I don't ideologically agree with Qatar either. I don't ideologically agree with Saudi Arabia either.
You
I
did say
certainly.
that.
Why in the world do you think I would agree with Qatar or Saudi Arabia or the UAE, all of which are monarchist states? Like I'm anti-monarchist first and foremost. So
Well,
obviously I don't support them, right? And I obviously don't morally support Israel as well. So the whataboutism fails as well because I do actively condemn Qatar and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. So your whataboutism is not only a fallacy. I could believe that Qatar is acceptable for different reasons, but it's also incorrect because I condemn all of them. So please make an actual argument about this, though. Tell me how them denying the Nakba refugees their internationally recognized right of return is not fundamentally racist.
and well, I could say this that Israel has an obligation to protect their citizens. Over time, the Palestinians that have come in through Gaza have created atrocities in Israel. Israel has a right to protect their citizens. So at what cost? How does Israel do that? If you are a president of a
Do
country,
you know what the Nakba refugees are?
yes, I have a question for you. If you're a president of a country
So,
and you're
sorry,
living,
I don't think you do because the Nakba refugees wouldn't be coming through Gaza.
I'm just talking about, okay, go ahead. So let's finish that point. Go ahead. Tell me about the Nakba refugees.
What do you think the Nakba refugees are?
As far as I know, was the Nakba happened, I think in 49, 48,
Roughly, yeah.
47, roughly, right? Where Israel was attacked, right? Six
I
Day
mean,
War.
Israel illegally and violently claimed independence, right? And
What
then
did
in
it do?
defense, the Arab nations fought against them, yeah.
The UN did not declare Israel a nation. America didn't declare Israel
No,
a
no.
nation.
The UN did not declare Israel a nation. That's
The
not true.
US,
The US was the first to recognize them, one of
right?
the first to recognize them, but that doesn't mean that the US declared them a nation. The partition plan required Palestinian consent. Palestinian did not the Palestinians did not consent. So the partition plan did not go through. So no, the UN did not declare them a nation.
Okay. So Israel became a nation in 1948 on whose word?
They
How did that happen?
illegally declared independence, yeah.
Illegally declared independence, and then just what? Everybody just sat back and be like, all right, let them do it?
No, that's why the Arab nations, responded.
Okay, and then they responded by attacking, and then Israel won the war, and Israel stayed there. And then what happened? They just decided to let it go. They said, "Oh, we lost the war. We're going to let it go."
I don't understand what narrative you're trying to make.
I'm trying to. Israel is a state today, right? By whether people like it or
Unfortunately.
not. Fair for you. It's unfortunately. I was born there. For me, I'm kind of
Well, it's
fortunate.
a disgusting ethno-state. I don't really support disgusting
Fair
race
enough.
to say
Listen, I'm
ethno-states.
like
But
I am an
the
adult and I
point
respect
is
everybody's
regard
opinion.
you were literally talking about the Nakba. So the Nakba happened in 1948 and 1949. In that war, that illegally declared independence for Israel, that involved the expulsion of multiple hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their land, right, either at the behest of Arab nations or at the behest of Israel, right, in response to Israel's settler violence, right? And now when Israel occupies the land that they illegally expelled civilians from, they have the international right, they have the international obligation to allow those civilians and their descendants to return to that land, which they are currently failing that obligation to do. So that's the controversy. Those people have a right to return and a right to citizenship, right? So when you say that they need to protect their citizens, you are saying they need to protect their Jewish citizens. Let's be
No,
very clear about what you're saying.
no,
Because what
that's
they're
not what I'm
doing is
saying.
they are denying the Arabs, the Nakba refugees, who are by and large Arab, the right to citizenship
They
on the
offered them
basis of their
all.
ethnicity.
They offered them all citizenship.
No, they didn't. Directly following the war, they made quite a facetious offer, right, for
They offered
citizenship.
them
But you
all
do not
citizenship.
lose, but they have since rescinded that. The refugees, right, of the Nakba do not have a standing offer for citizenship. That is not true.
Well, they
They have been
offered them at the beginning, and you said they since have rescinded it. And why have they since rescinded it? Because of all the terrorist attacks that were happening.
absolutely and totally untrue. They gave one offer for everyone to return, but those were war-ridden still areas.
Okay, so what do you want to do? What do you want them to do then? What do you expect them to
Follow
do?
international
The
law.
offer was there, right? If I offer you
No, the
something,
offer
you
was
say
facetious.
no.
No one was going to go back to that area when there was still when the Israelis were still attacking and brutalizing Arabs in that area. So
I'm
no, it
not sure
wasn't
if
an
your
offer.
feet is
But once
your
again,
feet
once
is low.
again, they need to follow international law. That's what I'm asking. You're like, oh, what do you want them to do? What they said they would when they joined the UN, which is respect the right of return to refugees. Okay? And the reason the reason the Netanyahu government has continued this racist policy, they've explicitly said it, is because it offers a demographic threat. Not a security threat, not a terrorism threat. The primary justification has been a demographic threat. There is no way to read a demographic threat in any way other than racism. So if a
Understood?
country is building its foreign policy and violating its foreign international obligations simply on the goal of fundamental racism, I have to believe that that racism is fundamental to the country.
You call it racism. I call it protecting their civilians, which happen to be some of them are Arab and
The
Muslim.
Nakba refugees are their civilians.
I'm talking about today. Israel is
Today, the
protecting
Nakba refugees are their civilians. They just don't recognize them as such.
because they gave them a shot to come back and they didn't. Let
They are internationally recognized them as their civilians.
Okay. Do you want to go to a different topic or do you want to just stay on this thing? I understand. Let's say we can agree to disagree. Like I'm an
Okay.
adult. Like I said, if you
Israel, I mean, it's pretty fundamental to any argument we have that Israel's a fundamentally racist ethno-state, right? But if you think there's an argument where that's not a fundamental disagreement we'll have, I'm happy to have that. If you want to move on.
for one, is I'm an Israeli and I'm not racist. So I know a lot of Israelis that are not racists. So I don't know if
I
if you
didn't
went.
say that every Israeli was racist, so
So you're saying that the state of Israel is racist,
is fundamentally built on racism. Yeah,
which means their civilians are racists. No, does that what is that? What's the difference?
a state is separate from its civilians.
Isn't the state consist of the civilians though? I mean, don't the
It
civilians?
does, but it's a separate. It's a fundamentally different entity. So America is built on imperialism. I am an American, but that doesn't mean I have to be an imperialist.
Okay. And if somebody called you an imperialist because you're living in America, how would you react to that?
I'd say by and large, an imperialist is due to your ideology, and you would have to look at my ideology. And I would say I by and large disagree with imperialism, and I disagree with the construct of America by and large.
Okay.
So
Same with me. I disagree with racism by and large. I'm not racist. I don't have a
then
racist born.
disagree with the settler colonial state of Israel.
I have Palestinian friends. I have Arab Muslim friends. It's very
No one
different.
cares. I like this is. I never made this about you. I don't know why you made this
No,
about
no,
you.
no. I'm not making it about me. I'm just saying that me being Israeli who was born there, I didn't serve any idea if I left when I was
Don't
younger.
care 2.0. Like I literally just don't care. Like it just doesn't matter at all in any way, shape, or form.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right. Well, Will, it was a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate the knowledge. I wish you all the best. Have a great night.
Peace out. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Hello.
Hello. What
Um,
does us to disagree on?
hello.
Hello.
Hold on, you sound like a robot. I think I can
Oh yeah,
get him
you
up.
have
Hello.
horrid internet. Sorry. Hello.
Hi.
What did you send a guest request to disagree on?
I'm sorry. Let me turn my sound up. What did you say?
What did you send a guest request to disagree on?
You're speaking a little bit too fast for me. I'm sorry. So
What
let me-
did you send a guest request to disagree on?
Oh, I was just listening to your narrative. You know, it's a narrative I hear quite often by Americans.
Do you disagree with it?
I do it totally. Yes, very much so.
Okay, on what basis?
I don't disagree with some of what you said. America is imperialistic. Okay, that was how we began. I wouldn't say we're imperialistic any longer as a nation.
Hard argument to make when we have extraterritorial status in like most countries in the world, but
Right. But see, Americans are a pluralistic society. Israel is not pluralistic. Israel is a society from its inception, which goes back over, 3,000 years, is a land for
not really.
Oh, well, okay, so you can disagree with the Torah, but that's my...
Yeah, the Torah is wrong. It claims that
the
a God
Torah- I know,
exists and
the
that
Torah made a
snakes talk.
mistake.
So
God did not make an everlasting covenant with the Jews, as said in the Torah. But if you disagree with that, that's quite all right. But nevertheless, that's what the Jews that are observant believe in Israel. Now,
yes, and they're wrong.
we have seen in Israel very recently, when Netanyahu formed his most recent coalition, that the scales were tipped towards the religious groups. Would you agree with that or not?
Yeah, by and large, the religious extremists, especially the
Well, you
Orthodoxy.
can call anybody religious extremist. That's a common belief by most people today, but it's not necessarily. If you're religious, you can feel very much in the middle of the road. So this is something.
No, they just also happen to be religious extremists.
Well, there's
Like
also
there are religious people, and then there are religious extremists, and
Right,
the people that support Netanyahu and built a government
in
with
Israel,
them is religious extremists.
in Israel, we now have a tipping of the scales, and because of what's recently happened on the 7th of October, Israel was in the press. You could see it everywhere. Was having what people thought was going to be a revolution as a result of this new coalition, which is stuffing the high courts in its image, much like Trump put four Supreme Court justices on the court, and Most recently, Biden has put 2. I mean, we usually stuff our courts by our political objectives. It's not unusual, but
I mean,
but the
Netanyahu
second,
fundamentally undermined the rule of law in
no,
Israel by
no.
bypassing the Supreme
No,
Court.
no,
Yeah, he did a little more than
no.
stuff the
He
courts with people that agreed
represents
with him.
his coalition. He represents his coalition like a liberal Democrat would represent its point of view.
Yeah, but no one has the right to fundamentally undermine the rule of law and bypass the checks and balances within their
of
government.
Israeli law has not been fundamentally in any way undermined. It is a country of law.
But what's
One
your
of the most
point regarding
legal
the
countries
issue
in the
here?
world.
One second. What is your point regarding the issue at hand?
My narrative. And
so one second. No. What is your thesis?
I'm trying to give it to you.
Give me the thesis now, and then we can talk through the argument.
Okay. Israel is an apartheid nation. That is its goal. It wants to separate the Jewish people from the Arabs.
Great, I agree with that.
That would be
this is why I asked you for the thesis. I agree we don't need to go into the argument. That's why I did that.
That's my thesis.
I agree with this thesis.
Now,
we don't need to go into your whole argument. See how that works? So where do we disagree? I agree Israel's apartheid.
Okay. And why are they apartheid?
Because they're racists.
No, because they want a Jewish state. Now, that's racism. Would you call the Japanese racist? They have a Japanese state.
I would call the
Koreans racist. They want a Korean state.
I would.
Okay, so that's what Israel wants and is accomplishing.
And they are being racist in it.
We will see.
Also, Japan. Wait. I love these examples. One second. Yes. Japan is one of the most racist, xenophobic countries in the world.
It is.
Korea is extraordinarily xenophobic.
Exactly.
Have you ever talked to an African American who went to Korea, or talked to a black person who went to Japan? Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I'm telling you. America is not like that at all. It's more of a melting pot which has never melted.
So this is why I ask you for your thesis first. What are you trying to point?
No point. I'm just explaining to you.
Sorry. Did someone just say Japan? Sorry, I'm just going to respond to someone. Someone is spamming Japan didn't ethnically cleanse people. Bro, what? Talk to a Korean about Japan ethnically cleansing. Bro, what? Japan didn't expel the indigenous people? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Are we forgetting the whole entire Japanese Empire era? What are you talking about,
what you're looking at over there, just as you're going to see those facts present themselves in Israel. They will have a one-state solution. It's going to be Israel. It's not going to be a West Bank.
Yeah, and that's disgusting. Do you have an argument like that I'll disagree with? Yeah, they want a one-state solution, and they're disgusting for it. Do you think they're disgusting
you
for
think
it?
They're disgusting because that is their destiny, as described in Torah?
I think it's disgusting because they think that's their destiny in the same way we thought manifest destiny was our thing.
It's the manifest. They have the right, and they have the need, and they have the power, and they will do so.
Why do they have the right to do
Those that were the secular Jews are diminishing. They are going to embrace this because of what happened on 4/7. You know who got destroyed on 4/7? Those were all secular kibbutzim. Those people who were having a rave, that was on Simchas Torah. Those people weren't religious. They were the seculars.
Okay, just pause for a second, brother.
Wait a second.
1 second. Pause.
With the Gazans, and now the
Bro,
Gazans
I'm going to continue talking over you until you stop speaking.
Well, you wouldn't let me finish. Now I'm finished. Go ahead.
Because no. The reason I'm going to do this, that's not what this conversation is.
That's what my conversation is. You have yours.
But it's not your conversation.
Well, you're the host. You can knock me out.
I know. But can I ask how old you are?
How old do you think I am? Let me ask you. Just make a guess. We'll play, pick the age, and someone's going to get a cootie doll or something. A Koopy doll. How old do you think I am?
53?
I'm 72.
72. Then can I ask you to act like it?
What does acting like that mean? What do you act
Not
like?
acting like a child and ranting.
What do you think you are? You're acting like a wise old man?
So let's let other people
You think you're acting like a wise old man?
It means having a two-way discussion.
You want to attack my age?
Well, no. I'm attacking your lack of maturity, not your
Oh, you
maturity.
think so? Oh, you think so?
I do.
Okay, well that's your privilege, I guess. You can instead of attacking
It is, and
the argument
I'm actuating it.
appropriately, you want
But
to
once
attack the
again, what that
person.
means is,
That is a
as a
very
adult, you
juvenile
should let
thing
other
to
people.
do, my
You,
friend.
as an adult, you should let other people speak.
You can. I'll let you speak. You sure?
Okay, so stop
you're the host.
speaking then, because that
But to
necessitates
attack
that
me
you stop.
personally instead of an
I
idea
didn't attack
that
you
we're trying to share,
personally.
you call
I
that
asked you to
mature?
act maturely. If you think, well, I asked you to act maturely. If you think you're failing on that, that's a different thing.
I don't think I'm failing on anything, my friend.
So let's calm down for a second. The reason I stopped us, and it shouldn't have taken this long to stop us, okay, but it did, and here we are.
Here we
Is
are.
because you are going on a rant. I am trying to have a two-way discussion. A two-way discussion and a rant are very, very different things. I don't want to hear your rant. If you want to go rant to a wall or a corner. If you want to have a discussion or an argumentative discussion, I'm very here for it. So how that works is I have to know what you're trying to prove when you're making a point, right? You can't just go on a 10-page monologue and then at the end make the point. I need to understand where you're coming from and understand what you're trying to say. So if we could try to have a discussion where I know what you're trying to get at first, and then we discuss proving it, that would be great. Right?
What are you trying to get at? Let me ask you, Mr. Host. What are you trying to get at?
Well, I don't know
You looking
really
for
where we
truth?
disagree. So the thing is, I don't really know where we disagree. I don't know where to place myself in this discussion.
You don't know what your beliefs are?
One second.
You don't know what your
You
beliefs
asked me a
are?
question. 1 second. When you ask me a question, what should you let me do?
I asked you a question. Do you know what your beliefs are?
So when you ask me a question, what should you let me do?
I asked you the question. What do you want to say? Are
So
you
what
gonna give
should
an
you let me
answer?
do?
Or are you
When you
going
ask
to
me a
pose another question?
1 second. So when you ask me a question, what
Yes?
do you let me do?
What do you want to do? Suck your thumb? Tell me.
You let me answer it.
Okay, thank you. Now we've got the basics down.
We didn't seem to before. So you asked me what my position was. Well, that's relevant to what yours is. This is obviously my position. I believe this, right? But I also, by and large, agree that Israel is an apartheid state, which you and I agree on, right? I believe
I agree on your premise up there.
1 second.
I agree on your premise up there.
Okay.
I don't disagree with that. I think they're on the nipple, Israel. They need to
So
get
I'm
off
trying to find something we disagrey on. You
I
see
don't
how
know.
that requires
Maybe maybe we're going to make kumbaya here. I don't know. I only want to get engaged because I thought you were semi-intelligent and we could talk about a few things. I didn't know what. I don't know where it's going to take us.
Well, you didn't want to talk. You kind of wanted to
I wanted to tell you a few
monologue.
things that your young mind needs to understand. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm not here to hear a lecture from you.
It's okay.
So if that's your goal, I'm happy
you
to
never know
you can
what you're
talk
going
to
to
your
get.
grandchildren or the series of lead in your mind. See how that works, everyone. Oh, how cute. Okay. Well, I do think I'm going to go to bed. I think that's what I'm going to do. Because I will need to go to bed because I'm going to be waking up pretty early tomorrow. Yeah. So I really, really do love everyone. I do love everyone who's on here. I love everyone who sent a guest request. I love everyone who sent a like, who shared it. Thank you so much. 126,000 likes. That is incredible. That is a lot of tapping, I can do a lot of good. Okay. But what I will say is I'm about to get off TikTok. But that doesn't mean I'm gone. And that doesn't mean that you are done with Will content. Okay? It doesn't mean that you're done with Will content. What it means is that you can now go to my YouTube and watch Will content as long as you want. As long as you want on there. I have 20 hours of there. So go watch that. Okay? Go watch that. There's lots and lots of content on there. And I'm doing that obviously because I think it's a little funny. But do go follow my YouTube. Okay. If you want to go follow my YouTube, I really appreciate that. TikTok does not like me. So my YouTube is a lot better. When will I be live again? I don't know. I don't know when I will be live again because I'm getting my wisdom teeth taken out, everyone. So I just came back from skiing, which was great. And then I am getting my wisdom teeth taken out. So in between, this is what this is, and then I will be incapacitated for maybe a few days, and then obviously the holidays, and then I'm back in America and back in the UK. So I'm a very busy guy. Okay, but I will try and be live as much as I can. Maybe you'll see me with some like cotton in my teeth, whatnot. But I love you all. If I can ask one thing, do go follow my YouTube. It has a lot more impact. It has a lot more like in following. So thank you so much. Okay, excuse me. Other than that, thank you so much for everyone who sent a gift. That really boosts the live quite a lot. And listeners and views, Will McCaffrey is a liar. Well, live, laugh, love, lie. Okay, peace out. I'm a dip.
Her live got messed. Second L stands for lesbians. What does the first one stand for? Anyone, keep on sending likes. Just tap those fingers. Bah, 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 bah. Oh, this can again. We have choice in who we speak to, right? Right? Other lesbians. If you disagree with me. Hello.
Hi, so I just stumbled across this. Love it. It caught me, so I wanted to join. I want to add to this, like a quick piece of information. I'm older, so just so you guys know, you can file to extend paying your taxes this year. So file an extension for 6 months at least. You don't pay penalty. And that way you can cripple this evil government that keeps supporting genocide. Go ahead, file the 6 months extension. If we all do it, if all of us can do it at once, it will send a message. You can only get them with the money. The only way to stop them is the money. They need that money. And one more thing, right now, if you have any investments in Israel, you actually.
That actually wasn't me this time. Hilarious. Hilarious. Okay. Mohammed, do you disagree with me? Mohammed, do you disagree with me? If you agree with me, it's going to be really awkward.
Hello?
Hello. What did you send a guest request to disagree on?
No, I just want...
Okay, yeah, never mind. Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what's this mean?
What do you mean? End U.S. military funding of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, what's the meaning behind it?
Do you understand the term?
Yeah, can you elaborate?
I don't want the U.S. to be funding the IDF until they stop committing war crimes.
How can we know?
In the same way we try and know everything else, right? From whatever available evidence we have.
Which evidence do we have? Like,
I mean, we have independent reporting from Reuters, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. Oh. So I think what's happening is y'all need to turn on your cameras and then turn them off, like if you want, because it'll time people out. Cool? Send a guest request again. Then you need to turn on and off your camera because it'll troll you out. There you are. Okay. Hello.
yeah.
Do you disagree? Do you disagree with me?
Yeah, I disagree because, like, if it should be like half and half.
In what capacity? What do you mean by that?
Like, half of it should be funded and the other half should be unfunded.
Half of the IDF?
I'm saying like the right branches.
Okay, who in the IDF should we fund?
My cousin, my uncle, my grandmother, they need funding.
For what?
I'm saying my grandmother fights in the IDF. How is she supposed to fight without funding?
She shouldn't fight. Crazy how that works.
She does fight.
Guys, look. Do you know how many painkillers I'm on right now? I'm actually not on any. TikTok, I'm not on any. That's a joke. I'm on ibuprofen. Love ibuprofen. I have very little tolerance right now, though, for any other absolute idiocy. So, don't come up and be dumb. And also, trolling isn't funny. It's just really annoying. You know? No, I know. Look. Yeah. No, homie, I don't have a toothache. I have my wisdom teeth taken out. Okay, if you guest request and you're pro-Palestinian, I will kick you. Do we understand how that works? Because I want someone who disagrees.
Hey, what's up, Bill? You wanted someone to disagree with you?
Turn on and off your camera. It'll time you out otherwise.
It won't let me do that.
Then it'll kick you out. That's
All right.
sorry.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Do I have a job? Yes, homie. Not a job.
What's up, young blood? How you doing?
Doing real well. Do you disagree?
I don't know. While you're waiting for somebody to disagree, we can agree to agree maybe that 3 to 600 people die every day in America from drug overdoses. 600,000 or so homeless. That's documented. Other than the people sleeping in cars.
Do you want to talk on the issue at hand, or do you want to rant about other stuff? I agree.
I'm not gonna. No. I was just gonna kill some time with you till somebody comes that disagrees. I'm
not
going
interested
down.
in killing time. Do you disagree with this statement?
No, I totally agree with it. That's why I'm going down. You want somebody to disagree?
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for coming up. Peace out. Hello, Eli. Eli, can you hear me? You're on here. He has loaded in, so he should be able to join.
Hopefully you speak Arabic.
I don't.
So it's not your fucking business, the Middle East. Stay in your
Then I
business.
shouldn't be funding it.
It's mind your own fucking business. Don't
Then I
go
shouldn't
in
be
an area
funding it.
you
If
don't know
it's not
shit.
my business, I shouldn't be funding it.
Damn fucking opinion. Okay, motherfucker?
It's my money. It's my country. Once again, to the people spamming in the comments, send a guest request. Come talk to me, homie.
Yo, I just want to hop on and say Israel's a genocidal ethno-state, no different than Germany was in the 40s. Fuck them.
Crazy. Great. I'll wait for someone to disagree. Like, he's correct. This is a debate platform, homies. If you disagree with me, send a guest request. If you don't disagree with me, don't send a guest request. I just don't stream as much anymore because I'm at school. I'm not at school right now, but I'm at school like in other times. Okay, guest request should be on. Try to. Otherwise, sorry. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you so much for everyone being on. There we are. See, I don't want to change the topic because this still needs to be discussed, but we eventually get disagreement. We just gotta wait a second, you know? Or what we can do, because we have really good viewership right now, but we don't have very good likes. What we could do is restart this live. If you think people... Yeah, fine. Do we want to restart the live? We could get a different audience. What we really could do, the best conceivable thing to do, would be to restart the live. All of you come back in like literally 2 seconds. Do you understand? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat from everyone that'll come back in like 2 seconds? Because that'll give, if we get 260 people, right, on the live back in like literally 2 seconds, it'll boom. Okay, we can go. 3, 2, 1.
I'm curious as
Well,
to
it's
what
pretty well documented within the UN charters is that peoples and their direct descendants who were displaced by violence and wartime have the right to return to their homelands once that violence ends in that given area.
So would that be 7 million people?
No, I believe the people currently claiming right to return is roughly 750,000 people of the Nakba refugees.
Okay.
How far that goes into Jordanians and whatnot, right?
Well,
it's
yeah,
interesting.
because-
But it's whomever, it's the Nakba refugees, the active claimants in at least the ICJ court case was 750,000.
From what I've been told is that if they did do the right of return, it would basically make it so there's not a Jewish majority. So are you sure it's only 700,000? Because there's only two.
Wait, that's intriguing.
Because
The
here's the
reason,
thing.
this is interesting because I actually agree that that's the reason they're doing it.
Yeah.
They want to maintain a Jewish majority.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
What?
Racist. If I took actions to maintain a white majority in America, it would properly be understood as racist.
I agree, but can I say something? Here's the thing. Throughout history, and I think what people love to ignore is, like, why did Herzl create Zionism? It wasn't just some random supremacist ideology to just... I think it was...
No, it wasn't any random supremacist ideology. It just happened to also be a supremacist
Okay,
ideology.
sure. You can call it what you want, but...
He called Arabs dogs.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Absolutely,
sure.
it was a
Great,
racist
but let me
supremacist
speak.
ideology.
Well, considering, here's the thing. If you grow up a Jew, but before Israel, if you grew up as a Jew in any of those Arab countries, you were going to hate Arabs. And if you grew up as a Palestinian in the Gaza Strip, you're going to hate Jews and Israelis. That's just how it works, because from what you've seen, the other side hates you. And that's the sad reality, that both sides hate each other. But what we have to realize...
that's not ubiquitously true. Once again, there are Palestinian Jews. And there have been Palestinian Jews that have lived there for a very, very long time.
If any side...
With actually notably less violence. Under Ottoman times, they lived as a privileged peoples by comparison. There was violence, right?
Well,
and they paid
I
extra
think they had an
taxes.
issue with
but they paid extra taxes for extra rights, right? Like Palestinian Jews and Christians and other people of the book have lived under Muslim rule for quite a while.
I agree, but I think the hatred
So
towards Jews...
that's just not true.
Well, let me speak. I think the hatred toward Jews comes mainly from the Ashkenazis, because it ties into a lot of conspiracies about like the Khazar myth and all that stuff. It ties back into H-Man and like the reason why he hated the Ashkenazis and the reason why.
But the majority of Israelis are Mizrahi.
Yes,
So-
I know, but they're because it was such a big immigration and a lot of people don't view them as real Jews, even though that's like been debunked and all that stuff. But anyways, what I was going to say,
So I'm saying when we're talking about the foundation of Israel, right, we're going to talk about who the majority are, is the Mizrahi.
But let me
And
get to
the
my
big issue is actually with the immigration of Ashkenazi, primarily because the Mizrahi are, lived in the Middle East by and large.
But I have a point I'm trying to make. My point is that, once again, you can call this a supremacist thing nowadays, and I'm not going to disagree with that. I do think it is. There are things that are better for Jews there, but here's the thing: we have to recognize like why Zionism started, and I think it was a history of mass persecution and pogroms.
No, I think it was because of anti-Semitism. I think they were anti-Semites.
Who?
Most Zionist supporters were anti-Semites. I think Zionism is one of the largest actions of anti-Semitism that has been has been universally accepted.
Are you trying to like twist the definition to say like Palestinians are Semitic people, or like,
No. I think that the evangelical Christians that support Zionism are anti-Semites. I think the British people that supported the Jewish colonial project, right, were anti-Semites. That's why the only Jewish member of parliament during that time voted against funding of the Jewish colonial project, right, because he viewed it as anti-Semitic and heretical to the Jewish faith.
Okay,
Right?
sure.
So a small, loud minority of Jews pushed up this movement, and then it was co-opted by a bunch of anti-Semites to get Jews out of their country, right, and to fulfill myths that were fundamentally anti-Semitic. Zionism is anti-Semitism. It's not a reaction to it.
So Herzl decided to create the Zionist project or whatever after there was a certain massacre pogrom in France. I don't know exactly what it was. It was the final line. They were like, you know what, we're done. We need somewhere to go, to call home, because we're not going to be exist in 100 years if this keeps up. And I don't think any rational human is going to deny, I guess, the suffering of the Jews throughout history, and the exilings and all that. But
that was his excuse, yeah.
But here's the thing, and I genuinely
doesn't mean that that's the reason it was successful.
I disagree with 99% of pro-Israelis because I hate their arguments. Their arguments are always, the Jews are indigenous, so we have the right to the land. I don't care who's indigenous. It does not matter. That's the thing we have to recognize. It doesn't matter who's indigenous. What matters is that the Jews won a war in 1948, which established their sovereign borders. And that's what we have to recognize, that things change, just like in America.
So under the claims of Israel, which was made following a UN resolution, right? So if they're making claims on the base, this is also why I break up international law. The entire claim to sovereignty of Israel, right, is founded on that partition plan in 1948, right? And therefore built into it is international law. And one of the founding principles of international law since the release of the UN Charter is that territory gained in war is inadmissible in courts of justice. So no, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. Even if you disagree with the morals or the validity of international law, it is a fundamentally hypocritical stance for Israel to, one, claim its validity from international law, and then two, claim the rest of its land from a direct violation of international law. Those two things can't be true.
Fair.
Either it needs to decide it's an imperial power, right, and drop that claim of international law, or it needs to decide to go back to the 1948 borders, right, and drop the other claims. So I think we agree on that.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. That's fair. But the thing is that, like, we have currently, I mean, we're not talking about Fatah, we're talking about the H group, and I'm sure Fatah is committed. I mean, the reason why Israel won an election was because they were impossible to deal with. But anyways, the H group, I mean, we can look at the conflict that we can all agree started on October 7th, this current conflict, okay? I hate when people are like, what happened? Like, no, it was, there was more violence on October 7th, okay? And H group started this current conflict with war crimes. We can all agree on that. They committed.
Who did?
H group.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so they committed war crimes, then Israel responds with war crimes. Nobody enforces these war crimes. So what is a war crime? Like, genuinely, that's what I'm confused.
I mean,
about.
Israel agreed to international law to find war crimes. That's
great.
on them.
Yes, Israel's.
So who defines it? Israel. And Israel.
I don't love
their
Israel.
Own rules.
I don't. Israel's not. I don't love them that much. I don't like their government. They're contradictory, but both sides committed war crimes, okay?
But the thing is, I agree that both sides committed war crimes. The difficulty is one is a democratic, semi-democratically elected government that has international support and American funding. The other one is a terrorist organization that has seized power counter-democratically. So no one is suggesting that we diplomatically support the H group. Whereas hundreds of thousands of Americans and other international influences are suggesting that we support Israel. There is no parity in this discussion because what we are talking about is, as outsiders, what do we do? And as outsiders, no one's suggesting we support the H group, but people are suggesting we support Israel. So the question is about this claim. So if you want to talk about parity, let's have parity and not support either and actively diplomatically work against both.
But then you're holding these people to some moral equivalence, which any rational human's not.
But you made the you literally just made the moral equivalence.
No, I didn't.
You did. You said, well, both of them commit war crimes. One commits war crimes, the other commits war crimes. One doesn't get held accountable to war crimes, the other one doesn't get held accountable
Well,
to
no,
war
that's
crimes.
not my
That
main
is a
point.
moral
No.
equivalence.
My main point is that, like, sure, they're war crimes technically, but one side clearly has a more barbaric and nihilistic intent.
Okay, I mean, I would argue that the characterization of the Arab side as barbaristic is just racially motivated, much more than anything in reality. Because if you look at the actions of Israel and Israel's government, yeah, they aren't barbaristic. They're incredibly and sadistically tactile, right? They're incredibly and sadistically systemic. And it's much, much more scary to have a systematically sadistic enemy than something you would characterize as barbaristic. Because what you're looking at is much more impoverished, much less well-funded people doing whatever they conceivably can, by comparison to the Israeli side, right, which is using some of the most advanced weapon systems to terrorize a civilian population. Right. So I don't really care if one's barbaristic by your names, which is there's a long, long history of describing Arabs as barbaristic, which I don't necessarily really appreciate. But I don't understand what your point is. Right. You made the moral equivalency. I don't think there's any way of getting around that. And I don't think there's a moral equivalency. I don't think there's a moral equivalency between a terrorist organization that was funded by Israel, right, and the IDF, a terrorist organization that is Israel. I don't think so. I view them one as a funded reaction and one as the original action.
It's not a reaction. That's the thing. It's because these people want all of the land. And when
Israel wants all of the land.
But
the diplomat to the UK of Israel just said that a two-state solution was not possible.
Well, I don't. Well, yeah, now it isn't because of the history. But if you look at the 75 years, I mean,
then Israel wants all the land. Why are you faulting the Palestinians?
You see like 4 or 5 wars with the Palestinians, major wars throughout these 75 years. Okay, and you see that all of them were started. I mean, you could talk about 67, but we both know how
Israel started 67.
Okay, but you know why it started.
Technically, yeah. Technically, they did.
Considering
it's correct.
So considering Egypt started a war in 48 and started a war in 73, isn't it safe to say
who started the Russia-Ukraine war?
Russia.
Okay, but America and NATO allies were actively agitating Russia by letting the the Baltic states join NATO. Is that enough of an agitation to justify that America started the war?
Well, you didn't hear my point. Can I explain it?
Sure.
So we'll recognize that. I mean, we can talk about why, but in 1948, Egypt was one of the countries that unprovokingly declared war on Israel.
It wasn't unprovoked.
Okay, they declared war on Israel. In 73, they declared war on Israel as well. Okay, so considering they declared war on Israel 2 times, and in 67, there was a whole...
Did you say 73?
The Yom Kippur War.
And you're trying to justify Israel's reaction to their actions in 67?
What do you mean?
Continue with your point.
Yeah, my point is that you have very hostile people next to you, and that, it was a preemptive attack, considering they did attack first 2 times, and considering there was...
But at the time in 67, they hadn't attacked first 2 times.
But they attacked first once, and they also militarized the border.
This is why I wanted to get the timing right.
Okay, sure. That's... I know. No, but I'm just saying, looking at how the history is played out, it's like these people were never looking for peace, considering that, they militarized their entire border, because I think the Saudis got word that Israel was going to it was a false call that they were going to invade. So Egypt militarized their border, and then Israel's claim is that they preemptively striked. And I don't think that's very inaccurate.
Israel did preemptively strike.
Yeah, sure. So we can talk about who started that, but
that's a violation, and that is a war.
Oh my God.
That is a war.
International law. It's like under international law, Israel doesn't have the right to defend themselves after October 7th.
That's not true.
Yeah. It is true, because international law is stupid. It is. I've talked to people who say because they
talk to people that are incorrect. They have absolutely the right to defend themselves.
No.
If there's a homeland attack, you have the right to defend yourself.
No, not against if it's a non-state entity and you occupy the territory, you don't have a right to. It's so much of stupid shit that because you
have the right to enter into an occupied territory to neutralize a threat. Absolutely, you do.
Okay.
America going into Pakistan to get rid of Osama was not a violation of international law.
Does the U.S. like to follow international law?
No, but I'm saying the entrance into Pakistan.
Why is all you guys
to get
have
rid of one second?
international
The
law?
entrance into Pakistan to get rid of Osama was not a violation of international law.
Do you think international law is a good moral standard?
You just said something wrong, brother.
I was saying what the pro-Palestinians always say.
Okay, don't move away from it. It's just simply untrue. Going into an area to neutralize a terroristic threat is not a violation of international law.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with you.
And what you said was incorrect. That was their form of right to defend themselves.
Okay, sure. I was voicing what the Palestinian people say a lot. And TikTok lives, they're always like, you cannot defend yourself against a non-state entity that is in...
But what does defense look like against a non-state entity? It doesn't look like the same thing as you would in the Russia-Ukraine war, for example. It's drastically different, right? But whatever. I mean, you just have... I'd love for you to know international law before you critique it.
Sure.
It's kind of hard for it to
here's the thing.
Physically grating on my soul and eardrums.
Okay.
To hear you, critique international law while actively misquoting and
I'm speaking your side's talking points, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
It's not my side. Talk to me, not my side.
Okay, great. But here's the thing. And now I don't think any solution. I don't think a one-state to two-state, nothing's feasible. Israel's going to occupy the shit out of Gaza. They're going to impose an actual...
They've occupied Gaza since 2012.
Okay, maybe, sure, rightfully so.
Rightfully so. Under what rights?
Well, they pulled out. They gave them a chance, and then they just turned it into a piece of shit.
They gave them a chance by funding their jihadists?
Well, it was... They had more... First off, when they came into power, they needed a more rational group than Fatah. But Israel didn't even think that the charity that later became Hamas was a more rational group. Actually, they precisely supported them because they knew that they were an extremist and unstable group. I don't think that's the case. I mean, when they started funding them, they were a charity.
The brigade general that ran Gaza in the 1980s explicitly said verbatim that Hamas is, unfortunately, an Israeli creation, and that they were created to fund the jihadists, right, to counterbalance Fatah and the PLO and actively destabilize Gaza.
Okay, sure. Israel,
and Netanyahu in 2019 explicitly admitted the same thing.
Israel
that Qatari funding into Hamas, right, precisely because he supported Hamas internally.
Okay, so why do you think right before, I think it was before Hamas came into power, Israel withdrew and they basically kicked out all the Jews?
So did you ever ask? Did you ever look into why they said they did it?
I think it was to give them a chance to build up.
Well, they didn't even claim that.
What was their claim?
They said that it was for ethnographic reasons.
Like what?
Like not wanting Arabs in their integral land because they threatened the Jewish majority. That's the reason that the government at the time said.
But the Jewish majority...
Right? They said due to international pressure and because they wanted ethnographic supremacy in their integral land. No, it was for...
I'm not one to ask for a source for everything, but I've never heard that.
It was because they wanted a Jewish majority like the racist ethno-state they are.
I mean, yeah, I would say they want a Jewish majority, considering that how the history is played out. Why isn't?
No, I know you're going to go on your copium justification rant, right? I don't want the rant every single time.
Well, do you think that
the point of yours? I don't want the rant every time. What I'm saying is that's the reason they made Gaza. So, what was your point about Gaza? Because they didn't, in good faith, attempt to nation build in Gaza. Actually, they did the exact opposite, right? They actively destabilized and meddled in the election.
Once again, 5 years before they pulled out, I mean, Yasser Arafat was offered almost all of the West Bank and all of Gaza in the form of a state in the campaign.
Of which Yasser Arafat accepted. He was forced into the Great Compromise of accepting international law regarding the 1967 borders.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, the international position on
Why do you think
the border should
it?
be. So Yasser Arafat, right, accepted the international position, much to the disgrace of him and his constituents. And then Israel were the ones that denied the reasonable offer.
What was the reasonable offer? The right to return?
The reasonable offer was the thing in line with international law and international opinion.
Which was the right to return?
Which was the 1967 borders.
Well... I don't think, like, you can't just return to, like, these borders. I mean,
You can. You literally can.
So,
They've pulled out of the Sinai.
you think that would
they've
go
pulled out
well?
of Gaza
You think
before.
considering-
They've pulled out of southern Lebanon before. They absolutely can return to previous borders.
Yeah, they can, but since there's been so much aggression, I don't
Stop
think
saying things
going
that you
to
then
happen.
walk back 2 seconds. Think about what you say before you say them.
Well, no, I don't think we can move past the Camp David summit. I don't know a single justification for declining that. I mean, here's the thing: if you were Yasser Arafat,
The single justification is it is in violation of international law.
oh yes, that's why
it
Yasser
institutionalizes
that's why
a
Yasser
war crime.
Arafat declined it, because he cares so much about international law.
Yasser Arafat declined it precisely because they denied the right of return of Nakba refugees.
But, okay.
That was the reason he gave.
Let's say Israel is this crazy evil power, and you know you're not going to get anything better from them. Why would you not accept it? That's my question. Because
He came in with he made compromise after compromise after compromise after compromise with Israel.
like what? The Oslo Accords that did nothing? Wait, let me ask you a question. If
He made compromise after compromise because he goes in wanting either a one state or a 1948 borders.
which is not
Right?
feasible.
The 1940. It's not realistic because Israel is a genocidal ethnos.
No, because the Jewish
one side
majority
being batshit crazy doesn't mean that the other side, not giving into all of their demands, are being ridiculous.
Jeopardizing-
You realize what you're doing is you're infantilizing Israel to abdicate them of responsibility for their psychotic behaviors. You don't have to capitulate to an infant, right? When you're in negotiations with them, just because that infant has a nuke. Okay, you can't characterize the Palestinians as irrational. You can't characterize the Palestinians as crazy simply because they're unwilling to capitulate to absolute and utter idiocy.
No, I don't. I mean, I think the claim, and the not wanting to jeopardize the Jewish majority is a valid claim, considering
Of racists?
No,
I don't think it is.
Okay,
I
but
think if I wanted to maintain a
if you
white
look at the
majority, that would be
population,
racist.
if you look at the population from Jews in all the Arab countries, I mean, it was very high, and now it's around.
You know what happened to the population of Jews in Arab countries after the foundation of Israel?
You're going to say they voluntarily left because everyone wants to voluntarily leave their
I
life.
didn't say that. No, I am not going to. This is why I say argue with me and not the people made up in your head.
I've heard so many bad talking points. I'm just like, I'm okay. Sorry.
I too have heard many bad talking points in about the last 20 minutes. I don't think they voluntarily left by and large. I think they faced a incredibly large amount more violence once the Zionist colonial project started claiming that they represented all Jews, and then they started committing incredibly horrible war crimes in Jewish names. So
Okay.
yeah, the Jews in Arab nations in North Africa, right, especially, faced a lot more oppression following the Zionist state, and that's why we see a huge amount of exodus of them, right?
I wanna ask
Whereas
you
if
a
we actually
question.
look at the ethnic tensions between them, there was ethnic tensions between Jews and Arabs, right, in other countries, prior to Israel, the foundation of Israel. Right, but it's on a whole different scale and a whole different level than what we're seeing between Israel and the Arab countries and the Jews currently in Arab countries now. There's a whole different scale. They live semi-peacefully side by side for hundreds of thousands of years in these areas.
I think we fundamentally are going to disagree. Do you think that there can be a two-state solution, and there can be a solution in which the Palestinians get less, that is less than all of the land? Do you think there is a solution, and that you will support that solution? Because would you, if you represent the Palestinians, would you accept, knowing that the history is going to unfold this way, would you accept the partition plan?
Would I accept the partition plan?
Yeah, you get like 45% of the land.
I don't think it's relevant to go back to it.
Well, I'm just curious.
What I will say is,
what are
starting
you
from
willing to
now,
accept?
I agree with the PA's position, at least in part, right? The PA's current position is the return to the 1967 borders. So the Palestinian Authority, along with Fatah and the PLO, right, have made it extraordinarily clear and consistently clear that that is their position. And those are the representatives of the West Bank currently. Unfortunately, Gaza has been taken over illegally by Hamas.
Does that mean giving back the land?
So
to Egypt
once again,
and
you
Jordan?
attempt to characterize Palestinians as these irrational negotiators. Well, currently the actual representatives internationally recognized of the Palestinian people simply want the 1967 borders, of which a huge amount of their sovereign territory was taken from them illegally. But yeah, that's the position
Okay,
they would
does
take.
that-
Do I think it's possible? No, because Israel's a genocidal ethno-state, and they will attempt to land grab any land they have the diplomatic and military might to do so, right? Because that is required to maintain their ethnostatic situation. So no, I think there's an issue fundamentally in that area, and I think that issue is the current state of Israel. I think a two-state solution could exist if we fundamentally changed, basically all of the founding principles and understandings of Israel.
Would the 1967 borders entail that Egypt and Jordan would then occupy the Strip and the West Bank, or would that
Not
would
necessarily.
would it give sovereignty to like the PLO over the land?
It would be interesting to see how they end up doing a power sharing. I think it would probably look a lot more like an Arab trustee state split amongst Arab states.
Considering that it's pretty clear that none of the Arab countries care about the Palestinians, why is there no being critical of Egypt or Jordan?
I mean, it's hilarious to suggest that Jordan doesn't care about the Palestinians when roughly 70% of Jordan is Palestinian.
Well, once again, it's like, what is a Palestinian? The thing is this.
Well, you made a claim and it's wrong.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, when the refugees came to Jordan, I don't know what year it was, but they tried to overthrow the government and then they got exiled to Lebanon. They don't. I don't think they're big. I mean, currently, yeah, it's a very high.
Roughly 70% of Jordan is Palestinian.
Let's
so it's
talk
difficult to exile 70% of your population, brother.
Let's talk about Egypt. I mean, they're not letting any refugees in.
Did you ask Egypt why they're not letting refugees in?
Well, I know why, but it doesn't seem like
why. Wait, so what's the reason for that?
I'd say it's two reasons. First one being a security threat.
Okay.
And the second one being, I think, once the Palestinians from Gaza go into Egypt, I think it kind of indicates that they were defeated and they got kicked out, and it's like that. Is that why? Do you think
Israel will never let them back in?
Sure. I mean,
it'll be Nakba Part 2.
No, but I don't think Israel really wants the Gaza Strip necessarily. I don't think
I just don't. I think they don't want Palestinians more. So once again, y'all demonize Arabs for either their reactions or the direct actions of Israel. The issue is that if they take refugees, Israel will not respect the rights of those refugees in their homeland.
I mean, do you think that the goal of Israel is to ethnically cleanse the Arabs?
Yeah. Because not just the Arabs, the Palestinians precisely. I think they're fine generally with Jewish Arabs.
Okay, no. Because here's the thing. Palestinians on ethnicity. Ethnicity is Arab, okay? So we have to recognize...
I mean, no, that's categorically untrue. There are lots of different sub-ethnicities within Arab. And Palestinian is, at the very least, a national identity.
But when we refer
also, ethnic cleansing can apply to any amount of subgroups. It can apply to a religious subgroup. It can apply to a national subgroup. It can apply to an ethnic subgroup.
Why isn't
Palestinians are both an ethnic subgroup and a national subgroup?
So why isn't Israel's first step to the cleansing to remove the Arabs in their country who aren't Jewish?
It's a little more clear, isn't it? And also, they have consistently been at the face of the ICC, right? Consistently attacked for their treatment of Arabs and Palestinians within their own lands.
Well, I think every Arab Israeli I've spoke with who's not Jewish, this is my anecdotal experience, but I've not met a single Arab Israeli who dislikes Israel, who doesn't think they're treated.
Are you speaking to Palestinian Israelis, or are you speaking to Arab Israelis?
I'm speaking about Israeli citizens who aren't Jewish.
Crazy, wild. That's not what we're talking about.
What are we talking about?
Because hear me out. There are Jewish Palestinians, and there have been for
I'm talking about
thousands
Israelis citizens who aren't Jewish. It could be a Palestinian.
So that doesn't mean they're Palestinian.
Okay, Palestinian. Yeah, this is why I'm confused.
We can't go back now. So the thing is if we actually want to talk about, I didn't care in the first place. Your anecdotes are literally meaningless. If we talk about Israel's treatment of Palestinians within their lands, it's atrocious, right? Like there have been multiple cases in the Israeli Supreme Court, right, in the international courts, condemning Israel for their treatment of Palestinians within their lands. And once again, the Nakba refugees are the perfect example of this. The only difference between a Jew claiming the right of return under the law of return, right, in Israel, and the Nakba refugees, number one, is that it's been a few hundred years, and number two, that one is Jewish and one is Palestinian.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it ties back to the point of. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not going to say
the thing is that is a mistreatment of Palestinians that should and legally are Israeli citizens.
Okay, let's compare the Israeli citizens who are Arab, have no Jewish rights. Okay, let's compare them to every single Middle Eastern country besides Lebanon, in which they have zero rights. Not a single country they have rights in.
Sorry, am I suggesting we give military and diplomatic aid to those other Middle Eastern countries? Is that what I'm up here doing?
Well, the point is this. The Middle East is a shitbox.
The point is that you're making a whataboutism that is arbitrary.
Well, let me ask you a question.
What a whataboutism is?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then let's not commit one.
Well, it's a valid thing because...
No, it's not.
Arabs, we can all recognize that Arabs have the most rights in Israel than in any other country because they have zero...
So, first of all, I'm just simply not going to engage in this discussion.
Why?
Because it actually doesn't matter.
It does.
Right?
Because Arabs
I can condemn Saudi
in
Arabia
every
for their
single
human
other
rights
country.
violations just as much as I can condemn Israel for their human rights
violations. If you
violations.
live in a monarchy or a dictatorship, you have no rights, not a single right. You have no rights.
I'm once again, who cares? 2.0. That's not the discussion we're having.
Okay, so you're condemning them more than Israel, I'm guessing, right?
I mean, this isn't a discussion of those places.
Well,
this is why I say it's a whataboutism. Do you know what a whataboutism is?
Kind of, not really.
Okay, so let's say, for example, we were having a discussion about Israel. And I said that Israel mistreated Arabs. And then you said, well, what about Qatar? They mistreat their citizens. What about Saudi Arabia? They mistreat their citizens. What about Iran? They mistreat their citizens. Well, see how that would be a what about it?
Sure, no, but it's not because in Israel they don't treat their citizens that bad.
The fact that Iran does it doesn't mean that Israel doing it is any better.
I need to clarify.
Those two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
I need to clarify to the comments. They don't understand what I was saying. Just because you live in the UAE and you're a millionaire because they give you a bunch of oil money to make you happy, doesn't mean you have any rights. Because at the end of the day, you're living in a monarchy in which you could wake up the next day with no rights, no money, and you get unalive because there's no laws. That you're just living in a monarchy. So simply, you have no rights if you live in a monarchy. That's that simple.
This is the same amount of brain deadness that it would be if I said, look, if you're living in the UK, there are no laws. There are no rules. You're living in a monarchy. Ultimately, if the king wants to come down and just take all your shit, they can. Right? No, of course not. There are laws in Saudi Arabia. There are enforcement agencies in Saudi Arabia.
Well, they have whole
there are
parliament
multiple different modes of government and types of government in Saudi Arabia. Right? Like the monarchy would obviously lose their power if they just started taking everyone's money.
But
right? I'm not saying that the monarchy has no power. I'm saying just they don't have ubiquitous and total power.
Okay, sure. Let's talk about Israel.
This is a drastic misunderstanding and oversimplification of Middle Eastern politics. I would expect from a person that describes Arabs as barbaristic.
I never did that. I called Hamas barbaristic, which I don't think is wrongful. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about Israel because, I mean, I think we're just going to fundamentally disagree. I think Arab Israelis are treated amazing. And the thing is this.
Amazing by what standard?
By, I think, Western standards, considering they...
By Western standards?
Let me finish. Let me finish.
I mean, the Western Court of Human Rights described them as atrocious. Amnesty International, a Western organization, described them as atrocious. Did the Human Rights Watch, a Western organization.
Let me finish. You have Arab Israelis in Supreme Court, in Parliament, in any highest job possible. You have Arab Israelis who are so passionate about being Israeli, they actually voluntarily serve in the military, okay? And they don't have to. It's a bonus about being an Arab Israeli. You're not forced to serve in the military. Here's the thing. When you speak to and I encourage you to go do this, speak to Arab Israelis and ask them, how is your experience in Israel? 99.9% of them are going to say it's amazing and I'd rather live here than anywhere else in the Middle East. So you're just a random white guy from America. And I think you're speaking for all of the Arab Israelis. how about you go speak to some Arab Israelis and ask them about their opinions? Because all you can refer to is international law. But when you look at the reality of it and you talk to Arab Israelis who are so passionate about living in Israel that they serve in the military and come online to talk about how it's not an apartheid, everyone's misunderstanding this, sure, I'm not going to disagree. Being a Jew in Israel is better, just like being a white guy in America is better. There's racism that exists. There's racism that exists in Israel. But under law, it's pretty equal. It's 99% equal. You can talk about, I guess, like the Orthodox Jewish villages, like those that I don't support any of that. You can talk about, I don't really know what else there is. There's not much else. They're pretty equal. That's pretty much how it is. And people love to just dismiss the fact that all of these Arab Israelis love their lives in Israel. They're treated equally. Now, you can point out like a few laws that benefit Jews because, yeah, it's a Jewish state, but that doesn't mean Arabs can't live there. The whole point of Zionism was for a Jewish majority to keep the Jews safe. But that doesn't mean that Arabs can't live there amazingly. Sure, yeah, I'm not going to ignore that. Yes, if you want to call it a supremacist state, I'll say it too. Fine. Yes, if you're a Jew there, you have more privileges. Fair enough. But I think it's for a reason, and I don't think that it's that harmful to the Arab Israelis, considering it's the Middle East.
Okay. The wonderful monologue, where I think about two things were said. Tokenization of Arab Israelis that have been, either submitted to an incredible amount of propaganda from Israel, right, and agree with you, that's fine. And I guess minimization and dismissal of the things that even you have to admit are done against Arab Israelis. And I guess three, misdirection of the conversation, because we weren't really talking about Arab Israelis, we're talking about the destruction of Palestinians, right? And the mistreatment of citizens who are Palestinian within their country, right? Not just Arab Israelis, because as both you and I said, most actual people in Israel are Mizrahi Jews, of whom a huge majority are Arab, okay? So we're not talking about Arab Israelis. So this whole entire rant that you got annoyed at me interrupting genuinely doesn't matter at all. The whole point was literally irrelevant, and it was quite offensive to tokenize the Arab Israelis in the first place, when once again, Human Rights Watch has called out specifically the treatment of Arabs within Israel, right, as an atrocity. But to get the conversation just a little bit back on track, we're talking about the treatment of Palestinians within Israel. And it's incredibly clear that the rights of Palestinians within Israel are fundamentally different, right? There was an international court case, right, taken by, I know these are the only people you care about, Israeli citizens, right? And guess what? Those Israeli citizens just happen to be Palestinian, and they alleged that the IDF forces, right, and Israeli authorities detained and mistreated the Palestinians who were detained to such an extent that they ended up dying. And there was an international investigation of this, right, that eventually condemned Israel. So, no. I don't know why you went on this long-ass rant about Arab Israelis, right? Yeah, it's in the Middle East. They're going to have a lot of Arabs, right? And they're going to treat them differently. And actually, they don't have a huge problem with Arab Jews, as I've said multiple times. They don't actually even have a huge problem with Arab Christians or Arab Muslims. The people they have problems with are Palestinians, who are Arab, but not all the Arabs. This is a category error. The whole rant that you got very mad at me interrupting was nonsense. Why did you waste everyone's time?
What I mean by the Arabs who I'm talking about, I am talking about Palestinian Israeli citizens, okay? Sure, not.
Okay, cool. Then we can talk about the Palestinian and Israeli citizens who have brought multiple international court cases and alleged hundreds of abuse claims against them.
Well, here's what we have to realize. Are you talking about, when you're talking about this stuff, are you referring to like the West Bank or Gaza? Because I'm talking about purely in Israel proper Israeli citizens. Are we on the same track?
Yeah, well, now that you're using the correct words, yes, this is what I'm referencing anyway, right? Yes.
Yeah. I think we just look, once again, I stated in my thing, I'm sure there's a lot of racism. I went to Israel, I didn't see a lot, but I'm sure it exists, just like it exists everywhere. I'm sure there's issues. It's not perfect, but I don't think it's that bad. And considering, once again,
what is that bad? By what bar? By what?
What is that bad
when you don't minimize people's pain and suffering?
I'll tell you what's that bad.
People are literally killed in detention under Israel. How much is that bad?
What's that bad is living in one of these surrounding countries in which you don't have rights. That's bad. I think having voting rights
Why
and
is that
being
the bar? You said by Western metrics.
a Palestinian could be the prime minister of Israel. Like, I mean, that doesn't exist in
What's that bad? You're so
Because
incredibly
that doesn't
slippery.
exist in a
What is that bad?
in a supremacist state like you're talking about it to be. I mean, sure, I agree that you can call it a supremacist state. That's fine, but the way you're describing it is just completely irrational to what Israel is, in my opinion.
Once again, you can restate it. You're not answering my question. You said it's not that bad by even Western standards. You're wrong. It is horrendous by Western standards.
Okay.
That's why it's been condemned by Western standards.
Talk about the horrendous.
Are you just saying it's not that bad by the other states that have been implemented by the West to actively be unstable and extremist? It's not that bad by comparison, right, to the regime in Iran that was implemented following a series of terrorist attacks by the US. It's not that bad by the dictatorial monarchy in Saudi Arabia, right, that was institutionalized and supported by the West precisely because of their horrendous treatment of their citizens. It's not that bad by comparison to the Bahrainians, the Qatari, right, who were also institutionalized by the West, or the Jordanians who have active Western support, right, or Egypt who is bullied into totalitarian rule by, once again, the West, right? Is that the bar that you're not that bad?
Well, what can you can you list? Because sure, once again, what I said, I'm sure there's hate crimes. Hate crimes happen everywhere, but a hate crime is not legislation. I mean, can you really list to me like a ton of legislation against in Israel proper non-Jewish?
You're just going to ignore that whole point. What's your bar? I've told you.
Well, I'm asking you, what is so terrible? I don't know.
One second. I've told you multiple times. The ICC has condemned them for their treatment of Palestinians,
So list some things.
of Palestinian Israelis under that.
Like
Let's
what?
talk about the Samaritan people. The
Give me a
Samaritans, they
single
originally
example.
denied their right of return.
Is all you can say? No, I'm talking about Israeli citizens. Can you list some like rights that the non-Jewish citizens just?
I'm not talking about rights. I'm talking about treatment. I'm talking about hate. I'm talking about people dying.
Okay, you could talk about hate crimes, but that's not legislation. I'm talking about like legally imposed laws.
I'm talking about actions of the executive, brother.
So like what? Talk about it in Israel.
Racists are sorry. Racists are just a little smarter than to write down, right, different rights codified of their minorities. The racists have gotten just like a skosh smarter, everyone. Just to update. Same motherfuckers that say there's no racism in America. Guys, point to one thing a black person can't do in America. Yeah, because the racists have gotten a little smarter.
Okay, so
it comes down to the systems that cause executive action to be fundamentally different regarding Arabs and Israelis.
Okay,
and the most racist thing that they still have done, because they're not that smart, right, is denying the Nakba refugees. Those are Israeli citizens, as far as I'm concerned.
No, they're not.
And they're denying their right of reentry.
They're not Israeli citizens. So once again, you can't answer my question because it's like when you talk about.
I've answered your question.
Well, no, you
there
haven't.
Aren't
Why?
de jure.
Notice
there are not. 1 second. There are not de jure different treatments of Palestinian and Israeli citizens, with the exception of entrance into Area C, right? So Palestinian and Israeli citizens have different rights of return regarding the entrance into certain parts of the West Bank and of Gaza, right? So if you're a Palestinian and Israeli within Israeli citizenship, if you enter Gaza, you must sign away all your rights, whereas Israeli, you don't. Similar thing with Area A within Gaza. Okay, so that there is a de jure difference there, but that's semi-justifiable on the basis of the Oslo Accords. So there are some de jure differences. You pretend like I can't answer your question. There's the answer, right? But with the exception of that, there aren't many de jure differences. What I'm saying is that there are de facto differences, and the de jure differences apply mainly to the people that Israel doesn't even recognize as citizens, but internationally ought to be.
Okay, I mean, dude, like, we just fundamentally disagree. I mean, you think that black people in America...
Yeah, you fundamentally disagree with reality. Did I answer your question?
That's actually you.
1 second. Did I answer your question?
No.
Okay, let me try again then.
No, let me ask the question again.
Sorry, I'll try it again and then tell me how I can do. There are de jure differences in the treatment of them within the West Bank and the treatment of them entering Gaza. Okay, there are de jure differences with the recognition of their rights of return into West Bank and into Gaza, as well as with the Nakba refugees. The Nakba refugees you're going to ignore because you don't consider them Israeli citizens, but I do, and so does the international community. Right. So those are the three differences. Right. As to that, I agree that when we just look at those three, they look relatively minimal. And I actually agree that they're relatively minimal with the exception of the Nakba refugees, but you're going to kind of like tenth that because you don't really think they're citizens, and that wasn't the aim of your question. But when we talk about the de facto differences, then we can really start interestingly talking about how the executive branch, the police, the IDF, and the extremists who are in the West Bank, for example, utterly brutalize even Palestinian Israeli citizens. Right, that is well documented and well understood, and has been the subject of many court cases. So de jure, not so many differences, right, and de facto, huge amount of different treatments. And also, hate crimes are legislation when you are not prosecuted for hate crimes. When it is the consistent prosecutorial discretion choice to not prosecute you for hate crimes, that is a legislation choice, even if it's not written on ink.
Would you compare the treatment of Palestinians in Israel who are citizens to black people in America? Do you think it's on like a similar level?
I don't think that's helpful. Once again,
well, I'm just asking, just from the. I'm just curious.
I'm not going to engage in a useless question.
Well, no, because I think black people are treated 100% equally in America. I think Palestinians are actually treated worse in Israel than black people are treated in America. But anyways, because you were talking about how racism exists in America, and sure, but once again, we just fundamentally don't agree on these things.
Yeah, sorry, did I answer your question?
Sure, but okay. I don't think de jure has any validity. Because once again, you really couldn't state, de facto. You couldn't really state any legislation within Israel, and you talked about hate crimes.
I did. I stated too the treatment of them within the West Bank and Gaza. And
once again, you can't talk about Israel proper because there is no.
No, that is Israel proper. That's re-entry into Israel proper.
Are you saying Palestinian and Israeli citizens who leave Israel and then try to come back? Are you talking about that?
Yeah.
Go where? To America or what?
Into Area A in the West Bank.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't support Israel and what they do in the West Bank. I don't like the settlement.
No, but you didn't understand what I said. So when you bitch and moan about me not answering, it seems to just be you actually not understanding what I'm saying.
You could say that. I'm not going to disagree with that. Sure, yeah, sure. There's some differences, but once again,
okay. So that is a de jure difference. Okay.
I don't know how I can define
it's a racist de jure difference,
but it's not that bad. Just like it.
Okay, exactly. Your next move is minimize. Right. This is the classic move of a propagandist, and it's really easy. Deny, divert, minimize, right? First you denied, you didn't answer my question. Then you diverted, moved on. Then you minimized when put into a corner. That is bad faith. I don't know why you're approaching this in bad faith. Approach this actually attempting to learn. Who cares if it's not that bad? It's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't...
That's not the discussion to be had. Because I'm not saying we should fund Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying we should fund Iran, right? So when you're saying it's not that bad, it doesn't matter because that's not the discussion. The discussion is if we should fund and support this state.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
And if they're doing something wrong, that's relevant.
Yeah, that's fair, and I agree. I think Israel.
Okay, then stop minimizing it because it's useless and it's genuinely quite frustrating.
Well, because my opinion still stands though, because of all the Palestinians who I've talked to who live in proper Israel. They love their experience. Now, I'm not going to, you can say I'm tokenizing them. I'm just literally speaking from my experience, from people I've talked to, from my friends. Yes,
I'm just going to say I don't care about your personal anecdotes.
Okay, fair.
So I'm I'll take it as a micro nap whenever you mention one.
So go do it for yourself. Talk to some. But I'll say this. I think there could be work done to Israel.
I speak to lots of Palestinians, brother.
I don't think their current government...
They just unfortunately happen to be in the occupied areas rather than Israel proper occupied areas.
I think there's work that needs to be done, but yeah, I just don't think we're going to agree. So I don't see where this is going. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you that there's work that needs to be done. I think you hold it to a higher level of extreme than I do. I think we both, I do, I'm not going to disagree. I think you have a rightful reason to express that feeling. I do think it is a bit irrational considering that you couldn't really list legislation within Israel other than two things that don't really have much effect. So I'm not going to minimize it. I'm going to recognize it. I'm going to say that Israel needs to be worked on. But I think at the end of the day, we're just going to hold it to different standards. I don't think it's that extreme. You do.
In the same breath that you minimize it, you say you're not going to minimize it. Wonderful. I don't think we're going to agree on it either. It's an incredible amount of, I don't know, obfuscation. But then I appreciate coming up and I'll see you later.
All right, have a good one, bro.
You too. Who said check DM? Check my DM where? Alabas. Oh, yep. Thank you for those. I don't check my DMs typically in here. But okay. Thank you. Ali Abbas. Okay. So let's get this bread, everyone. Also, isn't my healing looking so good? Okay, so keep on sending likes. I'll say that. I will do my classic shill just because I need to get more viewers, more people on here, always better. It's not like a good no function does it. Anyway, okay. Keep on sending likes. Thank you so much. If you don't follow me already, do take this second. Go to the link in my bio and follow me on YouTube. If you could follow me on YouTube, that would be great because I upload these lives, and the best thing you can do is like repost clips. I don't know. It'd be great because get more of this out here. Get to talk about more. And yeah, go out and go to Palestinian marches. Go support Palestinian businesses. And call your representative to call for a ceasefire. Okie dokie. Let's get on with this. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to people sending gifts that boost the live quite a lot. That's the best thing you can do for the live, honestly. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, you're on. You're on live. Oh, unmute yourself. I thought your thing wasn't working. Hello, unmute yourself. I'll send you an invite. There we are. Not really working, brother. Wait a second. Okay, well, that one looked good. Send a re-request if you. Oh, thank you so much, Slay. Thank you for the gifts, that's very queen. Hello, you're muted.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
How you doing?
Good. Living, laughing, loving.
Can I ask you a few questions before we start, just to get some general knowledge about you?
Sure, Oscar, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Slay.
Where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina.
Cool. And where are you in life? Like after uni, in studies,
uni.
college? What you studying?
Law.
Oh, nice. Cool. What state do you live in?
I live in North Carolina.
Okay, cool. So Will, so for someone living in the US, like, what was your thoughts of in the Iranian parliament when they were shouting "Death to America" and "Death to Israel"?
Expected.
Okay, but so would you think it's like a national security for the US and Israel to
Do I think Iran is a national security threat? Yes.
Yeah. So I think the US and Israel has that in common, and that's why I would say it's the funding has like common interests.
Yeah, so I don't think genociding the Palestinian people is justified on American national security interests.
So just to clarify, you're saying that what Israel is doing now in Gaza is genocide
Yeah,
by
by the international definition of genocide, they're taking illegal, life-ending actions to either displace or destroy an entire, in part or in whole, an ethnic group within a certain area.
but they're targeting, Hamas. So, like,
Well,
I'm
if
not
they
saying
do,
there's
they
not.
have fucking stormtrooper aim, because they're hitting a whole lot of civilians, especially when they kill civilians point blank. It's difficult to say they're targeting Hamas when they point blank unalive, civilians. Thank you so much for the gifts. That really helps the live. Thank you so much.
I wouldn't say point blank, and these like.
I mean,
these
we
are
have a video.
things-
Al Jazeera just released a video of them point blank unaliving women and children.
Can you send me that?
I mean, not
Like
currently. You're free to look
Not
it up.
currently, but after I like to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say are you claiming that, like, under international law, or in your view, whatever happened on the 7th of October should just be like no retaliation, or are you open to some retaliation, or
Well,
if
do you think
any
that what
any
happened on
sort?
October 6th, 5th, 4th should have happened with no retaliation?
What do you mean?
The illegal occupation and the brutalization of Palestinian women and children. Thank you so much. That really gets it out to more of the people.
In Gaza, there was an occupation on the 5th of October. The Israel pulled out of
Absolutely, an
Berlin.
illegal blockade. A blockade constitutes occupation.
I disagree with that. Like I can.
The UN agrees with me, so it's difficult to argue with them, isn't it?
No, but you do agree that there's a difference between, like, what's going on in the West Bank and in Gaza in regards to, like, occupation or blockade.
I agree there's a different type of occupation going on.
Okay, so you can call it a different kind of occupation. I'll agree with you that it's a blockade, and, if a terrorist...
So could the UN, and so could the documents that they signed on to.
No, for sure, but if there's a terrorist organization living next to you, I think we'd be responsible to do a blockade and see what goes in and out.
Not just see, almost entirely limit to the point of calling for Palestinians to go on a diet, right? That's the despicable part. It's not just the blockade, right? It's the actual blockade. It's the air, land, and sea limitation of their food and humanitarian aid. But importantly, let's talk about October 7th, right? Y'all use this as the excuse all the time, but more Palestinians have died in this conflict on orders of magnitude than Israelis ever would in October 7th or any type of other terrorist attack. And secondarily, the actions Israel's taking is not de-escalation, it is not de-radicalization, and it is not stabilization of the area. It is actually directly destabilizing the area and radicalizing the youth, right, across nations against them. That will only incite more violence against Israel. Right. There are ways to reduce terrorism in areas, and that is not what this is. So when you bitch and moan about October 7th, well, what I say is you shouldn't have funded it in the first place. Israel funded what later became Hamas in 1980s, and they tacitly supported Hamas in internal politics up until at least 2019. Right. So if you don't want something to unalive you, don't give them the, gun.
So that I totally agree with you, and I think that was as you know, Israel's a democracy, and a lot of people here don't agree with what our government did in the past. And I actually agree with you that funding terrorists is a stupid way to stop terrorism. So I would agree with you on that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I come from. Is there? The question is, why did they fund it? To have an excuse for precisely what they're doing now.
So I would disagree with that, although I disagreed with, I wouldn't fund them, but the quote unquote was that the general idea is that if the people have an economic and a good future, they would be less likely to defer to terrorism because everyone's happy and living well. That's like basically why you would want people to live like a happy and a good life in that situation. And I agree with you, it didn't work out. It worked out horribly.
Yeah, but I think they knew that. I mean, in 1980, they explicitly made it clear that they funded, what became Hamas and were jihadists at the time to destabilize the PLO and Fatah. Right, so they were
So
destabilizing the government as a whole.
I was talking more about like recent months, like months before October or in 2019, as you stated, with money coming in from Qatar and letting that money go in and hoping it was to build a better economic and society for the Palestinians living in Gaza. And it's a shame it didn't work out.
Well, I think they continued their policy of destabilization. But let's talk about what they're doing now. Do you support what they're doing now?
So I do. I think it's, you keep saying that we bitch and cry about October the 7th, but that's the only reason why it is what's happening now from my point of view. Like if there wasn't October 7th, then I'd totally be on your side. What they're doing now is like,
but the thing is there was brutalization of the Palestinians prior to that.
So when you talk about the Palestinians, like there's different areas they live in, but I'm specifically talking about Gaza.
Yeah, there was an illegal blockade on Gaza. There was Operation Protective Edge. There was Operation Cast Lead, which involved an illegal, like semi-occupation and illegal military force within Gaza. Right.
But as I explained before, like it seems logical if there's a terrorist organization that came to power there that you would put a blockade on there. It's not that they put a blockade and then
those actions include Palestinian deaths. Right. Why did they brutalize when the Palestinians peacefully protested? Right. Like there was brutalization of the Palestinians in Gaza when they walked up to the wall peacefully. So I disagree that this is really a reaction to 2007. I think they're using October 7th as a excuse, and I'm done falling for their excuses.
Okay, but are you? Because I have heard other views, and I just want to clarify this isn't yours. You're not saying like October 7th was an inside job or something. You're saying it happened. It was horrible. It was a terrorist attack. But now, given that it happened, they're using it as an excuse.
I'm saying they wanted something like it to happen. I'm not saying they made it. I'm not saying they planned it. I'm not saying they intended it, right? But I'm saying they wanted violence in that area, and that is what happened when they wanted violence in the area. There's no other reason to fund jihadists like they did.
Okay, so I agree with you. There was a mistake for them to fund them, but the initial.
I don't think it was a mistake. I think they knew precisely what they wanted. I think they knew precisely what they were doing.
I'm saying from my point of view and your point of view that it was a mistake, like looking from the side. Like you can.
No, I don't think it was a mistake. Sorry, I think it was an action of evil people. Right. I think mistake is the wrong word for what I'm
saying. Given the premise that
I think it was a crime. I think it was a despicable action. But yeah, I understand what you're saying here.
Yeah. So as someone living in Israel, I would also say it's a crime for funding them, and a lot of Israelis would feel the same. But how do I put it this way? I'm saying if you've got women, children, and young men kidnapped and in the Gaza Strip now, with somewhere between 30 to 40,000 terrorists who are also in power, would you say there's a like what would you say would be like the ideal situation would be? Zero civilian casualties. Like that I totally agree. And if there was a magic button that could do that, I think everyone would hit it.
I don't think Israel would.
Okay. So you're saying that it's in Israelis government's kind of like
policy
agenda
to kill civilians, yeah.
So I strongly disagree with that.
I think that's very clear by their actions. There's a reason that there's an order of magnitude more women and children killed in this conflict than most other conflicts, even against other terrorist organizations. There's a reason more women and children have been killed. What's the statistic? In this conflict than the rest of the other conflicts in the Middle East for the past, 5-10 years, something like that? It's an absurd amount. It's an absurd amount of women and children killed. More in Syria. That's a fight between like 5 terrorist organizations, right? When America attacked Kabul, right, which was controlled by the Taliban, we killed way fewer women and children than that. I don't support the attack of Kabul, right? But It's fundamentally a part of that. And Israeli ministers said that nukes were on the table. You don't get to that conclusion for any care of Palestinian people, and you don't really even get there for care of Israelis.
Yeah.
You get there for racist bloodlust.
Yeah. So that particular politician was really called out, and I personally don't agree with him. I know that a lot of people also called him out.
No, I know, because he exposed too much. He was mask off.
No, just you don't do that. Like you
I
don't.
have no doubt that his particular verbiage is unpopular. What I'm saying is the fact that those are your extremists, right, tells you something about your centrists. Right? So what extremists you have informs what non-extremists you have. Because it can only be so far.
No, you've got outliners, like outliners I don't think define where the average or the mean
But he's not. He's still a part of the government.
Yeah, but he's like in political terms, he's an extreme like outliner, I'd say. He's not like I understand where you're coming from.
He's not an outlier. He's an extremist.
Yeah, but I think his views in that particular scenario.
Right, but that doesn't mean that he's totally random. There is no one else that agrees with him. There's a whole party that agree with him that are in coalition government.
So a lot of the parties
I'm not saying everyone agrees with him. I'm not even saying a majority of people agree with him, but I'm saying a majority of people fall somewhere in a spectrum in relation to him, and I think that's equally despicable. This is where it comes down to, well, you have to look at these actions that they're taking and really, with a fresh eye, decide if you think they care about Palestinian lives at all. And it's really uncompelling to me to think they ever did when they said that Palestinians need to go on a diet.
So I'll give you
the poorest, most densely packed peoples in the world.
So I'll give you my perspective on that. I think if on one side of Gaza was all the Hamas members, and on the other side of Gaza, 0 Hamas members and all the Palestinian civilians, I think you'd have 0 casualties and the war would be over very soon. Let's put it that way. Would you agree with me that that's
no? I know you've said that before. If they had a magic button that could just kill Hamas members, I don't think they'd use it. That's not why they funded Hamas. They didn't fund Hamas just to kill Hamas. They funded Hamas to be agitators. They funded Hamas, right, to destabilize the area. There's a reason they wanted them there. And it's not just to kill them.
Okay, so I was going to go different with this.
You don't fund an organization just to randomly kill them at some point. You fund them, right, because they serve a purpose. And I'm suggesting that that purpose is because they want to cause another either mass exodus or mass unaliving. And that's what they're doing. That's why they keep pushing the evacuation line down. That evacuation line will just soon be the Rafah crossing.
I was going to go on a totally different route with that it's pretty obvious that if that was the case, then Israel would win the war in no time. And the fact that Hamas knows that is why that's not the case, why they don't come out of densely populated areas. But for your sake of argument, which I don't agree with, which is the agenda just to kill innocent Palestinians, but then wouldn't it be better for Hamas to remove themselves from the innocent Palestinians for the world to see just Israel not targeting Hamas? For your thesis,
I mean, Hamas has done in PR the best thing they conceivably can, right? Which is they claim, at the very least, that they do move away from innocent Palestinians, right? And a huge amount of their claims are that they are away from Palestinians. It's the Israelis that consistently claim that Hamas are in Palestinian and residential areas, right?
So when rockets are fired from residential, the evidence doesn't
and they also have to sit there. The thing is, no, I know. I'm not saying they are fully. Right, but what I'm saying is Israel has consistently and falsely on multiple occasions said that Hamas was in a residential area when the international community has either said they have no evidence to back that up or there is counter evidence to suggest they're just flagrantly lying. Okay, so Israel not only does lie about Hamas being in residential areas, right, but then uses that lie to justify the killing of Palestinians. There's no way to describe that other than a genocidal ethno state that wants to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. They're doing you're grasping for their excuses, right? Well, okay, well if they were genocidal, don't you think Hamas knows that? Yeah, Hamas knows that. That's Hamas's official position. Obviously. If you
I just
read Hamas's charter, which one's I'm not pro Hamas. I don't support Hamas at all. I think they were actually an Israeli tool. Not literally, right? But I think they were propped up by Israel for political reasons. But if we look at what Hamas says, they call it a genocide. They call it ethnic cleansing, right? And then they build their tactics around that. So yeah, everyone except Israel, with a reasonable eye, thinks this is a genocide.
So I think, like, for you, I'm not sure, like, I haven't debated other people, but I think if your starting point is that this is Israel's agenda, then no matter what you look at it, then that's what you're going to see. But for how I view it, or maybe other pro Israeli supporters view it, is that that's not the goal. Hamas is the goal. And obviously, if Hamas was not embedded in civilian structures, then there'd be zero casualties. That
okay.
Well,
if Hamas is the goal, why did they end Red Cross entrance into the Gaza Strip?
Why did they what?
Why did they not let the Red Cross into the Gaza Strip if Hamas is the goal?
We've been begging for the Red Cross to go see our hostages. They haven't. Hamas is denying them access to our hostages.
Why has you once again? That is so.
I see you're offended. So I might have said something that I'm sorry if I triggered you, but
yeah.
Can you explain why you're offended?
The only civilians that you care about Israeli civilians?
Well, you're talking about the Red Cross. So the Red Cross has seen, captured Hamas in Israel and have checked up on them. And so we would have expected them to also check up on.
I'm just asking if the only civilians you care about are Israeli civilians.
No, I'm not, but in the context of the Red Cross.
Okay, then when I talk about the Red Cross, you realize the Red Cross by and large would be addressing Palestinian civilians. And yet you took that opportunity to pretend like Israeli civilians were the only ones that matter.
No, they're the only ones hostages there.
At least be a little better at hiding your racism. So I'll ask you once again, why did Israel not allow the Red Cross into the Gaza Strip to aid primarily Palestinian civilians? Why did they do that?
So I think I have a misunderstanding, or I'm missing like a knowledge gap, because are you talking about like the situation now or before?
I'm talking about the first 7 days of following October 7th. They cut off all humanitarian aid, including the Red Cross.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm sorry for my misunderstanding. I thought you were talking about hostage situation. I'm sorry. I see how that can kind of
first 7 days of October 7th. Why did they cut off the Red Cross access?
So I don't know the actual reasons, but I'll tell you from my point of view why maybe I think they cut off other stuff as well. 3 days after the 7th of October, there was still they hadn't secured the border yet, and there hadn't things weren't really under control. So, I mean, that could have been a reason.
Why is that a reason? Do you think things are under control in Ukraine? Do you think things are under control in Syria? Do you think things are under control in Lebanon?
No, but I'm talking. So when I mean out of control, I'm saying there's thousands of terrorists who cross the border, and their goal is to kill as many Israelis as possible. Not Jews, like citizens of Israel. And until you have that under control, this is why. Like, I'm now numb to it because I've heard it so much, and like I'm an English speaker, but like a lot of Israelis, like when a terror attack is still ongoing, and then the other side is like, why aren't you letting us give access to this and this? And we're like, well, hold on, guys, there's still hundreds of terrorists with, ammunition in literally still doing attacks. Like, we're like, well, like, just give us a second, what?
But that's when you need humanitarian aid the most.
No. So that's
you don't think during a terrorist attack. That's when you need Red Cross and Red Crescent the most.
You're talking about in Gaza when there hadn't like yet been a response? Like Israel hadn't done any response yet, and
Israel had done a response. Within the second day, Israel had responded.
okay, so you're talking when Israel started to respond.
I've made my time period clear.
Okay, no, true. Okay, so just for I thought you were talking about like the second day where things weren't just settled yet and Israel hadn't yet responded. Okay.
Wait, but come on, bro. Listen to what I say.
No, I know. I'm just.
What time period had I said?
Okay, so you said within the first week, but okay, so you're talking about the end of the first. Okay, I get where you're at now.
It
so
required American and Qatari moderation, right, and negotiation to let the Red Cross and any humanitarian aid in. It does not take convincing to let the Red Cross in if you give 2 seconds of care to civilians. It doesn't. But if you don't, and you want civilians to die, then the Red Cross is a diplomatic chip you can play. And that's what Israel did. They used it as a diplomatic chip, right, with America and Qatar and Hamas.
So the Red Cross, I'm not so sure. I can't think of a reason why, but in regards to humanitarian aid, so once a terrorist attack has happened by the group who rules the Gaza Strip, you're not going to be so fast to say, "Oh, here, take more aid, take more food, more supplies, so you can continue do this before we retaliate." Like that's me logically thinking. I'm not sure about the proper reasons. Like I'm not
the Red Cross. It makes no sense for.
Yeah. So that I would agree with you. Like as I said before, I don't have any logical reason.
That's why I think Israel. That's one of the reasons I think Israel is a genocidal state. There's no excuse other than genocide to not let the Red Cross in.
I think, well, like I would maybe in hindsight now, maybe even they would agree with you.
But in foresight, they knew it. The longer they could push off the Red Cross, the more Palestinians would die in the immediate aftermath. Like, let's talk about the Nakba refugees. Why do they deny the Nakba refugees in? Because they don't want more Palestinians in their integral land. Why do they pull out of Gaza? Because they didn't want Palestinians in their integral land, right? Why are they engaging in settlements in the West Bank? Because they want to expand their integral land away from Palestinians, right? Why do they have the Golan Heights? Because they want to maintain military supremacy over Palestinians, right? A huge amount of efforts are taken by Israel properly and explicitly. They say it themselves, right? That they take actions to maintain a Jewish majority. Why in the world would those actions, right, of this extremist and horrendous government end up looking like something that, is fair, is just? No, it's going to violate human rights to maintain a majority. And when you violate human rights to maintain ethnic supremacy, it typically comes in the form of a genocide. Because that's the point of a genocide, is to maintain ethno-demographic superiority. So that doesn't just include denying the human right of return, that also includes killing the people who are that ethnicity within the area.
So, as I said before, I don't think any answer I'd give you for now what's happening in Gaza, if you're looking at it from the lens of this is Israel's goal to do genocide, I don't think there's any answer I could give you that would satisfy you. But what I would say is when Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip and gave it to the Palestinian people to govern for themselves,
why did they say they did that?
So to let them govern themselves, and our dream was to have a Singapore and from there, I think if it would have not been, if Hamas had not been elected, and I'm not saying they were re-elected all the time, they were elected once, a long time ago, but I think if we had a kind of a Singapore Dubai neighbor, I think we'd be much more closer, or even at a two-state solution with
the reason they said they pulled out of Gaza
with those kind of
they gave 2 reasons for pulling out of Gaza, one of which was security reasons, the other one was for an ethno-demographic reason. So it wasn't because they wanted a nation next to them. They've explicitly worked against a Palestinian nation because that threatens their national security, according to them. And Bibi Netanyahu, who was in power at the time, didn't want a two-state solution. He never has. The reason they pulled out were for two reasons. One, security. Two, ethno-demographic. The ethno-demographic reason's the damning one. They pulled out of this area because it was majority Palestinian. And they wanted a Jewish majority in all of their integral and occupied territories.
Okay, but given the fact that, like, you can kind of look at it as like they pulled out for whatever reason, but like this kind of gives you like a concept,
racist,
like,
genocidal
for people
reasons.
living. Pardon?
Racist and genocidal reasons. They changed their approach of occupation. Right? Because instead of validating that that is their territory that they must respect, right? They pulled out and crippled it from the outside. That's a drastically different approach, right? And it's a much more dehumanizing approach. When instead of moving in and integrating or putting settlements, which are still horrendous, into this area, which somehow but it still validates sovereignty over that land, and sovereignty comes with rights. They moved out, took all Israeli rights of the Gazans away, and then they violated their human rights by putting in the blockade. It's very different. You can't blockade a place where there are Jewish settlements, not if you're an Israeli government.
If Gaza today, there was no war, and Gaza was the new Dubai, everyone there was living their best lives, then you wouldn't say in hindsight that Israel's goal was genocide or racist, correct? Like,
that's not true. I say this, actually, this is hilarious because I don't think you know how much world history I know. I say this about Singapore. Do you know the story of Singapore?
I actually don't.
Yeah, so Singapore was formerly part of the Malay states, right? And then when Malaysia got independence, it was under a brutal dictator and was severely impoverished. And Singapore was actually one of the small parts of the then Malaysia that was primarily one ethnic group. So it was a minority ethnic group that was quite concentrated in Singapore. And Malaysia, or what later became Malaysia, kicked Singapore out. Right? It's one of the few countries to be founded by expulsion. They expelled Singapore from their borders because they were a different racial group. And look at Singapore now, right? Singapore is much, much more wealthy than Malaysia, and much, much more well off and much more internationally recognized than Malaysia. And yet still, I say that Singapore was founded because of racism and ethnocentrism, right? So, no. You don't even have to go to made-up hypotheticals to say this. I'm happy to say, yeah, Singapore was founded because of racism, and even though it's now richer and more well-off, its history is still scarred with that racism. And so is Gaza. Gaza just happens to, be a slightly more successful situation of racism and genocide on the Israeli part than the Malaysian part.
But Singapore, you wouldn't say, you could say racism, but you wouldn't say genocide because people,
It was genocidal. Actually, a semi-genocidal action was taken against that ethnic group that wasn't.
But I'm talking about in today's time.
In Singapore. That ethnic group was actually, by and large, ethnically cleansed in Malaysia, quite famously. So first they expelled, then they ethnically cleansed.
Yeah, but I'm saying in Singapore today, you define that there's an ongoing genocide there.
Well, no, there isn't an ongoing genocide, right? Because ongoing genocide is regarding power imbalances. You can't have an ongoing genocide against people you don't have power over, right? And I'm not saying that the expulsion or the withdrawal from Gaza is part of an ongoing genocide, right? I think it was well, actually, I would, right? But that's only because the genocide kept going. You understand that?
I guess what I'm trying to ask, and I see, and I'm not sure how you answer this. I'm not even sure that it aligns because with your views in regards to Singapore. But what I would say is that there's a lot of leaders in Gaza, the founders of Hamas, who are living abroad and are valued
Primarily in Qatar, yeah.
and at valued at net worth of like billions. And I think just like for the Palestinian people living in Gaza, regardless of Israel, that the money isn't being distributed there for the benefit of the people.
Now, all of a sudden, the West gives a shit about wealth redistribution? I find that really uncompelling.
No, I'm not saying that it's uncompelling. I was just like in my view, the belief is if there's economic and, like a future with prosperity that people can align to, and it gives hope for like living peacefully together, like economically, which is like a really strong reason. And so I also like Palestinian workers do come to Israel to work, and now it's been stopped for the moment with the war. But before that, so for me, it's like also the leaders there have responsibility to take for the well-being of their.
Where was this bitching and moaning when Trump is a multi-billionaire and president of America, right? Or Bibi, who's worth millions, right? Bibi Netanyahu, who's worth millions and is in charge of Israel, right? He should give it to the poor people of Israel. Trump should give to the poor people of America, right? Rishi Sunak, the prime minister of the UK, right, is married to a multi-billionaire. She should redistribute. I agree this is an issue, but in what world do we start caring about that just with Hamas? Right? The whole West has totally ignored and totally gaslit everyone out of caring about wealth redistribution. And then they condemn Hamas for having bad wealth redistribution? What?
No, I'm just saying, like, when you see the Hamas leaders' sons buying like tens of thousands of dollars of jewelry and bling bling, and then like
I think it's wrong, but I think it's just as wrong as Trump buying bling bling and hiring his children in his administration. What are you talking about? Of course I care about wealth redistribution. I'm a leftist, right? But Israel doesn't care about wealth redistribution. America sure as hell doesn't care about wealth redistribution. So we can have that discussion when we just take 2 seconds to look in a mirror.
Well, I was going to say, I think we agree on that point then, but like, what do you mean look in a mirror? Oh, you were talking
America,
about like
one of the most wealth unequal countries in the world.
I thought you were talking to me personally. Sorry. Misunderstanding. Okay, so we agree on that.
Okay.
Okay, so.
But I condemn Israel quite a bit more for that, just to be clear. Israel has a lot more wealth and a lot more wealth inequality.
But it's not like there are millionaires and billionaires in Israel, but it's like people who used capitalism and like build companies, and it's not like just funded money from like in the form of a charity foundation, and that just goes to its founders. Like I'd say it's a bit different than Hamas. That's all I'm trying to say.
You're not going to win me over by saying they got the money from capital.
No, for sure. I wasn't trying to win you over. I was just saying that my point is that like the leadership there also isn't great.
I don't find it a whole lot more ethical that they stole it from workers than they stole it from refugees.
But you know, the people giving the money to Gaza or even donating, and that like it gets taxed a lot by their government, and it just goes to the top 3 leaders who are billionaires. Like I think that's like there's no infrastructure, there's no.
Yeah, and when I work, it gets taxed. That's called profit, right? But we're just going to get into me being a leftist. I genuinely don't agree. Do you have another point?
No, not really. Would you like to ask me anything as like, if you have any questions? Just like out of curiosity or?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, it was lovely meeting you. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Slay, peace out. Should be interesting.
Hey.
Hello.
Well, I was sitting here listening to you.
Can you hear me?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, you were.
Well, I said to myself that, 500,000 people lost their lives in Ukraine, and 500,000 people lost their life in Syria, and 250,000 people lost their life in Yemen, and you didn't open any live and talked about it. And I wonder, maybe it's because they're not Jews, right? You can smack the Jews because they're weak and they're few.
I don't know why I would smack my grandfather. But if that's your view, we can talk about it.
This is what
I
I
don't
call
know why I would
hypocrisy.
smack my ancestors. I don't know why I would smack people I grew up with intimately and around. I don't know why that would be my view. Right? I don't know why I would smack a people in a religion that I have a massive amount of respect for. The difficulty, right, is that I didn't open alive for some of them, partially because I wasn't alive, right, or I wasn't of age, right, during Yemen, the primary Yemeni crisis. I wasn't of age for, right, or
What
the
about
Syrian
Ukraine?
crisis. I also really wasn't
There's
of age
much
for.
more
The
human
Gulf Wars, I
suffering
weren't
in
of age
Ukraine,
for,
and you
right.
didn't
So
open a live
no,
on it.
but secondarily, America wasn't directly and clearly funding them, right? So the Yemeni one, they were. I'll take responsibility for Yemen. We were funding it through Saudi Arabia. Similar to Libya, we were funding through Saudi Arabia. Syria, we weren't directly funding. Okay.
Yeah, but you are
Ukraine were
about to
directly
reduce
funding, but
human
I
suffering,
generally
right?
I don't have nearly as many moral qualms with what Ukraine is doing.
Wait, do you want to
Right?
reduce
Because
human
by and large, I
suffering?
do view that as a more anti-imperialist
Do you
view.
want to
But
reduce
secondarily,
human
I don't
suffering?
stop speaking. It's not difficult. You're an adult, right?
Yeah, but I'm asking you a question, right?
Okay,
It's
then
about,
let's act like one.
okay, so do you want to
Thank you.
reduce
Stop
human
speaking. So I'm
suffering?
going to continue speaking because you've just accused me of anti-Semitism.
Yes, I think you're
So be
anti-Semite.
careful with that, right? When my family is Jewish and I have a deep respect for them.
They're safe-hating
Be
Jews,
careful with
it
that, right?
exists.
When I've advocated in allyship with Jews my whole entire life.
Look,
Because
I
no,
told
I
you,
am not
do you
anti-Semitic.
want
I
to
have nothing
reduce
against
human
me.
suffering?
Stop speaking because I don't appreciate being accused of anti-Semitism.
Okay.
I don't appreciate
You're
being
bullying
accused
me.
of anti-Semitism when it's a good part of my
You're
identity that
bullying
I
me
have
because you
a
know that
Jewish
I'm right.
heritage, right? So no, okay. Are you able to act like an adult?
Yes, but are you going to bully me? Or are
Yeah,
you
wait.
going to
You came in
compensate?
here making false allegations. Stop speaking
No,
for a
I asked
second.
a question.
I let you make
Do you
your
know the
very
difference
long
between
sentence.
asking a
No.
question?
You're not welcome on my live if you continue interrupting me. I let you have your monologue. Can you let me speak?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Just to be very clear, if you interrupt me again, I will kick you. Does that make sense?
Okay, go ahead.
Wonderful. I take great offense to being called anti-Semitic. But secondarily, your argument's nonsense. I don't have to earn the right to call out genocide. I don't have to earn the right to call out human rights violations. And if I start now calling out human rights violations, I didn't have to in the past. Also, I'm 19 years old. I've only been of age to talk about anything of relevance, on TikTok at least, for about a year. And I've spent that year, right, talking about human rights violations in my own home, oftentimes in allyship with Jewish people. So no, that's not true. This isn't my first issue, right? Nor will it be my last, and it's nothing to do with them being Jewish. From my view, I believe that Zionists are some of the largest anti-Semites in the world. There's a reason that evangelical Christians support Israel. There's a reason that the only Jewish member of parliament, when the Jewish Colonialization Association was founded and seeking support, actively worked against it. Because it is a heretical, despicable, anti-Semitic
But I
ideology.
mean, there's so much
So no,
human
the Zionists are the
suffering.
anti-Semites, and I can condemn them to the world's end before I ever
But this
become
is a joke
anti-Semitic.
because
And I don't have to.
there's
I
so
have to
much
earn the
human
right to call out
suffering.
genocide.
Listen,
That's absurd. And once again, you've broken the rule. It's not difficult. It's not difficult.
you don't
How
want
old?
to have a
Can I ask
dialogue.
how old you
Just
are?
want to have a lecture.
Can I ask how old you are?
Why does it matter?
Because you need to
I'm
act
older
your
than you.
age. Stop speaking when others are speaking. We
Don't
learned this in
educate me.
kindergarten.
Okay, now there is much more human suffering caused by Islam in Muslim
I
countries.
categorically disagree.
Okay, this is an actual fact. I told you the numbers: 250,000, 500,000 of people in Syria,
I disagree that was caused
250
by Islam. Let's
in
go through
Yemen.
that
There is no,
by and
listen,
by.
there are
Let's talk about the Yemeni
21.
crisis.
There are 21 Arab countries in the world. Okay, none of them really cares about human rights. They do not care about women's rights, about gays' rights, anything. Do you know, by the way, that gay Palestinians are running from Palestine into Israel and Israel are giving them shelter?
And you know, gay
Did you know that?
Palestinians faced blackmail of the IDF to become informants.
So what's the problem with that? Did you know that
Using someone's
93%
sexuality as a tool to blackmail them into being
sexuality? What
informants
are you
against their
talking
own
about?
people?
Did you know that 93% of the Palestinians believe that being gay should be punished by death?
Address my point. One second, address my point. Do you think it's homophobic to blackmail someone on the basis of their sexuality to use them as an informant?
Show me the evidence that it happened.
Show you the evidence. This is a Reuters report of it happening.
I don't care about reports.
What?
I need the evidence. There are false reports everywhere.
I mean, it's an international report.
Yeah, like the BBC.
Okay, so if you just claim that everything that disagrees with you is false, we have no point in talking.
The hospital
right?
and
It's a
500
Reuters
people
report
died.
that internationally recognized this. Israel is not an ally to the
Yeah,
gays.
it's like they reported that
Gay
Israel
marriage
bombed
is
the
not
hospital
legal
and
within
500
Israel.
people died.
You cannot get gay married. You cannot get gay married in Israel.
Yeah, but gay people can live here safely, right? They can do whatever they want. They don't have to fear for their lives, like in the Palestine.
Is it homophobic to not recognize gay marriage?
I agree with you with that we are not perfect, but it's much better to live here than in Palestine or in any Arab country, because they will kill you.
What whataboutism is?
So I wanted to tell you that Israel is not your problem. And I wanted to say also that if you'll change the Palestinians with, for example, the Swiss people, there will be peace in 24 hours, okay? The problem is the culture of the Palestinians, is Islam. It's not a matter, no, it's a matter of culture. You don't understand the Middle East. Do you know what is Dar el-Islam and Dar el-Harb? Do you know the differences?
I understand what you're suggesting. I understand. I've had incredibly long talks about Islam, right? Hear me out, with my Islamic friends, with my Muslim friends.
They teach Muslims
in here is the Middle East. The Middle East, okay. The Middle East was set up to fail. Kuwait was made to fail, Iraq was made to fail, Iran was actively neutered, Afghanistan was drawn to fail, Syria was drawn to be neutered. Who drew those lines was the West. And every time, it's insane to suggest this, that it's somehow having to do with Islam, when Islam led some of the largest educational and peaceful times in the world's history. Under
in the Middle
Ottomans,
Ages.
We saw some of the largest academic booms in the world. Some of the most well-funded and centralized academic areas in the world.
About what is
some
happening
of the most
now.
peaceful times between ethnicities in these areas that we have ever seen. So I will not sit and accept for 2 seconds that it is the fact of Islam. Islam is much more accepting of Jews and Christians than Christianity or Judaism doctrinally is of Muslims. Doctrinally, Muslims are required to accept Jews and Christians. Not saying they always do, but I'm saying doctrinally they are required to. Whereas Jews and Christians refer to Muslims as heretics and often actively view their religion as requiring them to attack them.
They would have allowed you in Palestine. Do you understand that? In Israel, you will be safe. No one will touch you.
You know, literally anyone would be unalived in Palestine right now. I don't think the Israeli bombs discriminate between the gays or the straights.
You know what I'm talking about. Don't be cynical.
Yeah,
they would have thrown you from the roof.
Being cynical is me not accepting your view that only Arab people can kill people.
You're gay, right? I've heard you before. You said that you're LGBTQ, right?
Yeah. So why are you speaking on my behalf?
So they would have thrown you from a roof in Gaza.
I view this as fundamentally homophobic, by the way.
That's a
using
fact.
my sexuality, tokenizing my sexuality
No, I
to
want to
suggest
show
that I
you
have
that
to support
Israel
a
is not the
genocide is fundamentally
problem. The problem
homophobic.
is Islam and radical Islam. You don't understand. You are enemy
Do
of
you think
Islam.
that
You're
do
not
you
a
think
Muslim.
that Orthodox Jews support gay people?
Orthodox Jews do not support gay people, but the fact is that
And
they
Orthodox
have
Jews have
rights here in
cucked
Israel.
the
This is what matters.
and Orthodox Jews have cucked the Israeli parliament for the past 70 years.
Yeah, but the fact
So I don't want to
is,
hear about religious extremism from a religiously extreme
okay,
country.
would you
They are
prefer
the
to live?
reason that gay marriage is not allowed in
Answer this simple
Israel.
question. Do you prefer as a gay to live in Israel, okay, or in Palestine?
I'm not living in either.
Okay, if you had to, pick your
But is this
side.
the question?
Yes, this is a legitimate question.
Why does it matter?
Would you prefer to live in Israel or in
Do
Palestine
you
as a
think
gay?
that someone's support or lack of support
Are you
for gay
going to
people
answer the
justifies their
question?
genocide?
Are you going to answer the question?
No, because it's not relevant.
Because you know the answer. You can't say Israel because it will destroy your narrative, right?
No, because
Yes.
if let's engage in this nonsense.
No, I don't want to. If you're not going to answer my question, there's no point.
If you ask a question, if you ask a question, what do I expect you to do?
To hear an answer which you're not giving me.
Okay, so in what age? 6. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd prefer to live in Israel. That doesn't justify the
thank you very
Palestinians' genocide.
much. No, it's because you know you will be killed there. That's why.
I just said it doesn't justify the Palestinians' genocide. We are talking about, and this is the thing, is the reason you pretend to care about gay people, right, is because it benefits you politically. Religiously, Judaism does not really care about gay people. Culturally, from my view, Jews are some of the largest allies of gay people, but extremist Jews are not. Oh! Incredible. He was kicked. But I just want to make something clear to all of the people who have seen this talking point before. I am gay. Israel is not an ally of gay people. Jews individually have been some of the largest allies of gay people that I have ever met. Because they have an experience of oppression that is similar to gay people. Okay? So I have a deep and fundamental respect and allyship with the Jewish people and the Jewish struggle. So when people then bastardize that to turn that and suggest that I have to support Israel, when in fact the reason I have a strong, allyship and brotherhood with the Jewish people is precisely the reason that I do not like Israel and that I actively don't support Israel, is fundamentally disgusting. It is anti-Semitic and it is homophobic. And I don't support it. And I especially don't support people coming up here and suggesting that I am anti-Semitic for speaking up on Israel when I speak up on a series of other issues, right? But this one is just immediate and clear. And that's why I'm lending my voice to it. Can I also just note, there are a lot of lies about how Israel treats everyone, right? Or Islam treats everyone. Islam is required to accept the people of the book, and many people do live through that. Right? Like the treatment of Jewish people in Iran, right, is way overstated as bad. It's bad. It's not the best. They are still a minority, right? But they have legal protections institutionalized into the Iranian constitution. Okay, let's just really be clear. The people of the book, the people that you really should be talking about with Iran are the people of the Baha'i faith. The people of the Baha'i faith are persecuted to no end in Iran. But just to be clear. Okay.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Doing real well. What did you send a guest request to disagree on?
Okay, so there were a few stuff that overall I do disagree on. I think that overall Israel is, first of all, a way more liberal place. I think that in general the Israeli government is to blame for a lot of stuff. I don't know if you know politics and how it goes here roughly, but the thing is that right now, for the past roughly 12 years or so, most of the government is very right and religious, and the main reason being, of course, because the politicians sort of bribe the super ultra orthodox communities in order, to get voted in parliament.
I'm going to cut you off there.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I don't want to hear your points first. I want to hear your thesis first. What did you come up here to talk about? What did you come up here to disagree with me on?
No, I think that overall, even though we have a very pro-right government right now, I think that the main thing to take is that with this government, we're still very liberal. Yes, we don't accept gay marriage and so on.
Okay, who cares? Wait, no, I don't care. I don't care. This doesn't matter. You can be as rainbow flag and supportive as you want. Doesn't mean you get to genocide another peoples.
So first of all, let's speak something like, don't get me banned here. I hope that I'll not get banned for saying it, but you also have to take, the numbers that get out there with a grain of salt. So first of all, militants up to roughly the age of 21 are considered children by the state of Hamas. And second of all,
are you suggesting that there aren't a wide amount of civilian casualties and a huge amount of women and children casualties?
I don't.
Okay, then I don't care to debate the exact numbers because you have no better numbers than I do. So the point here is the actions of Israel are genocidal and the actions of Israel are despicable.
Okay,
let's talk about those. How do you justify, for example, the actions of Israel with the Nakba refugees?
I have a question. Why is it okay for 1,400 Israelis to be slaughtered? That's roughly
It
half.
Isn't. I never said it was.
Roughly half of the 9/11 attack, and not for Israel not to do anything about it in order to protect itself and put.
Did I ever say Israel shouldn't do anything about it?
In the end of the day, you're saying that Israel slaughters without end. Like, the thing is that the IDF, I know the IDF.
Wait, so what was your question? Sorry, you're getting to a question. Or did you realize that question involved a lie about me?
No, there is no lie. My question is,
okay, ask your question in a way that isn't dishonest.
Okay, is it justified to get 1,400 civilians killed and not to do anything about it?
Even Israel doesn't claim that 1,400 civilians were killed.
There were way more. There were roughly almost...
Israel does not claim that. Israel has reduced the number to 1,400 people, 500 at least of which were militants.
That's not correct. It was 1,400.
That's the IDF's official number.
That's not correct. It was 1,430.
We can look at the IDF's official number if we really want to.
Go for it. And put a screenshot here
released the official number
on the Google.
That is the correct numbers that they have released. Go pull up the IDF and show me that I'm wrong if you want. But do I think it's acceptable that civilians died? No.
Okay, so why do you think that Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself?
Did I ever say it didn't?
You're condemning the actions of the IDF, so sort of.
No.
Okay, so why do you call Israel, the IDF as essentially killers when what they do is try to protect its civilians?
From people on life support?
What?
They're trying to protect their civilians from people on life support and toddlers?
Toddlers have been killed from both sides, and it started with the Israeli side.
You want to rephrase that?
I said toddlers have been killed from both sides.
And it started with which side, is what you said?
The October 7th attack.
Okay. So they're defending themselves from toddlers and children and people on life support. That's where I don't buy it. Bombing a hospital isn't defense. Bombing a refugee camp isn't defense. Shooting women and children point blank is not defense.
Okay, do you know what's built under the Al-Shifa hospital? What were built under these places that were bombed?
I mean, I know what Israel claimed it was, but I also know what the UN independent report said about that claim. And they found under the Al-Shifa hospital that the claims of Israel were unjustified.
Do you know who right now runs the Human Rights Division in the UN?
You're talking about the Human Rights Council? This is not off the Human Rights Council. Do you only know one thing about the UN?
I actually know a few, and the whole situation of what Israel is being right now is because actually the main first, I would say the whole planning of the UN in 1948 is the main problem of why the Palestinians right now have the issue they have. The main issue is
when they released that partition plan, they validated an Israeli state under Zionist rule existing. That is the issue the Palestinians have. Because they were put right next to a terrorist state.
That's the incorrect part. If you'll right now look in Google, the British Mandate map, you'll see that, first of all, before even the UN allocation, there was Jordan and there was Israel. The Israel part was actually mostly filled with Jewish settlements. And the Jordan
in terms of land, but not in terms of population. And it depends what time you're talking.
In terms of land and, of course, of land, because in the end of the day, it's who buys the land and who owns the land.
The Arabs had a majority population under the British Mandate Palestine.
Okay, I have a question. If your family has bought legally a specified amount of land, isn't it your land?
No, not if the people that bought it forced Palestinians off that land illegally.
Well, they weren't forced.
Actually, they were. There were consistent forces and intimidation of transfers of land, right, under British Mandate Palestine. That is why Britain actively withdrew their support of the Zionist project under the Palestinian project, under the British Mandate Palestine, because the Zionist terrorists consistently made independent militias that intimidated and forced people off their land.
You know that under the British Mandate, the one population that suffered the most were actually the Israeli population.
Utter nonsense.
Well, it was. You can look it up. Israelis were closed in Jerusalem. They were closed in Tel Aviv. And until the UN didn't propose a deal, they were literally locked in their own land. Now, take into account that Jordan right now has, the majority of Palestinians are actually right now Jordanian. And this was the land meant for the Arabs. But the UN gave 2 more pieces to the Arab people. And right now we have this conflict of the West Bank and Gaza that essentially took part.
You think the UN only gave the West Bank and Gaza to the Palestinians?
What do you say?
Do you think only the West Bank and Gaza were given to the Palestinians in the 1948 partition plan?
Yes, they were. It was a bit more, but it's
only
roughly
those
that.
2?
Of course. And Jerusalem was an international city that was, of course, not under Israeli control. That's now half of it is under Israeli control and half is under the PLO.
I always find it funny when people speak on things they don't know. Have you ever seen the map of 1948 partition plan?
I have, yeah.
You don't seem to have, right? So they gave more than just the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, right? And if anyone with eyes and about 2 neurons to figure it out would see that they gave more than the West Bank and Gaza. So I don't know. I hate to impeach you just on knowledge. But do you think you know enough information to have this discussion?
Will, at 1967, when the Palestinians lost a bit of land, and the main reason being was because of war. When war happens, of course, the winner always gets to take part of like certain land. The thing is that
Is that really how war works in the
if
modern era?
if
Because the UN international accords that Israel
oh
signed on to
come on,
says that
you don't
land
know any
taken.
you don't know any history that the
Well, what I
Turks
know
had
is the
a huge
international
amount of
agreements that
land.
Israel signed on to.
The Brits
And
had a
one second,
huge.
sorry. The international agreements that Israel signed on to said that land taken in war was inadmissible in courts of justice. So no, I
My
disagree
guy,
that
I have a
conquest is still the
question.
norm and an acceptable
I have a
behavior
question.
following
Is
the
it
agreements of the
okay?
UN.
Okay. I have a better question. Who the fuck started it? Wasn't it Jordan,
Israel.
Egypt, Lebanon,
Israel
Syria?
started it.
No, fucking six Arab
Israel's claim
countries.
of independence was fundamentally offensive and an
Six
act of
Arab
war
countries. Six
against those
Arab
Arab states.
countries tried to take the whole of Israel. So of course Israel is going to fight back, and well, it won the land.
As I'll repeat,
in a manner.
international agreements that Israel signed on to said that they could not do that. So Israel is a functional hypocrite in most of its land claims.
Okay, my guy, tell me, from the river to the sea, your plan is for the whole of it to be.
Look. Oh my gosh, sorry. Wait. I may be a gay man and have a strong neck, but that was some whiplash even for me. Do you know how to have a conversation that like actually follows any through line? Let's keep on what we were actually saying.
Wait. I just want the answer for this. What is your plan? Where would Israel be in the map, or wouldn't it be in the map?
Can you logically connect that question to what we were talking about prior?
It doesn't have to do. I would just want to know.
It doesn't have to do with what we were talking about prior?
I just want to know.
Why did you run away from the previous discussion?
Where the hell do you want to put the Israelis? Nowhere in the map? That's your plan? You want the 58th.
I'm just confused as to why you pivoted
you
so
want
hard.
the 58th majority
Like my neck
Muslim
physically
state?
hurts and not in a good way.
Wait, you want the 58th Muslim state with probably Sharia law and stuff?
Bro, what? Why did you
that,
move away from the discussion we were having?
my guy, Islam has taken over roughly 25% of the world's map, and it's only going to continue, and you're not even waking up. That's what's boggling me.
What's boggling me? I don't know. I might have gotten concussed in that pivot, but what's boggling my mind is how you are so comfortable running away from a discussion and just going full Islamophobic, right? But okay, if we want to
I'm not
engage in this
Islamophobic. I
entirely
have
new
tons of
discussion,
Islamic friends, as you say.
one second, sorry. Wait, sorry. Catch a bubble, babe. Catch a bubble. Wait, let's try our quiet ears. Do I have a preference for a Islamic state versus a fundamentalist Jewish state? No, I don't. So Israel is a theocracy in its foundation that's cosplaying as a liberal democracy. So do I prefer that over an Islamic state?
Where the
Not
57
a whole lot, no. Am I? Sorry, once again.
Majority Muslim
That bubble's
states.
gonna pop, babe.
The 57
was
majority
saying,
Muslim states are very theocratic.
As I was
by
saying,
the way.
do I support? Sorry, excuse
Otherwise,
me. I'm
the
sorry. I'm
Sunni
speaking
and
right
Shia
now.
wars wouldn't.
I'm sorry. Oh wait, I don't know.
Why?
All right. This.
If you bought one of these for your kids for
Anti-theocracy? Yes, I am. Yes, I am anti-theocracy. Right. So I don't believe in founding a Palestinian theocracy. I don't believe we should found an Islamic jihadist state. And that wouldn't be my suggestion. Nor is that the PA or PLO's suggestion. Right. What they're suggesting is that they found a liberal democracy full of Palestinians. Because hear me out now.
That's
There
what
are.
they promote to
Wild
the
idea.
West, but that's
Palestinian
not what they
Christians and
promote
Palestinian
to their
Jews.
own people.
What?
That's what they promote to the West. That's not what they promote to their own people. Their own people know that that's what they want, a theocracy.
I mean, if we're just going to be a conspiracy
Or
theorist, we
wouldn't be
can
happening, my
say
guy.
anything we want now, can't we?
The whole reason this war is happening is because, in the end of the day, they want a state that's majority Muslim.
Majority Palestinian.
Majority.
They're not too bothered about the Muslim part. The PLO specifically is quite a secularist group by comparison to the current. It's surprisingly secularist.
Okay, can you tell me why the hell most of the Muslim countries have almost no percentage of, like, in terms of Jews, it's almost zero, but also in terms of Christians, the numbers are lowering year per year?
Yeah, so I would love to talk about why there was a Jewish exodus from the Middle East.
No, not only a
and
Jewish
from North
exodus.
Africa. Why was
Christian
there a Jewish exodus from the Middle East to North Africa? Why did the population in Morocco and Algeria and Libya and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and UAE and etc. decrease following 1948? What could we think happened in 1948?
I'm asking
And then why
about
was
the
there another
Christians, not
mass
the
decrease
Jews.
in 1967?
Tell me.
Maybe it's because
How was there
maybe it's
roughly 50
because
years ago only?
maybe it's because when Israel claimed to be the voice of Jews, and then Israel committed absolutely horrendous war crimes, that someone got
Will.
confused and thought they were the voice of Jews. Who would have thought that?
Will, I have a question. I'm not talking about Jews because Jews are almost non-existent in majority Muslim countries anymore, unfortunately. But I'm talking about Christians. Why the hell in most Muslim countries the Christians are decreasing as well? And why in the
Because the
European
Muslims are
countries
increasing,
the
brother. What?
Muslims
Also,
are
because once
increasing?
again, Christendom is committing horrendous acts against the Middle East.
That's only in one area.
Christendom, like all of the West.
Tell me
And
why
also,
the hell?
Lebanon and Jordan and Iran have Christians, and Iran, at the very least, have constitutional protections for Christians.
Even if they have constitutional protections, it doesn't mean that they follow through. It's just like them
No, it
having
doesn't. But
constitutional
you know who
protections
certainly doesn't
about
follow
Jews.
through for their
But
protections for Muslims?
if a Jew ever
Wait, sorry,
lands
I live
by
in the
mistake in
UK.
Iran,
You know who
is going to
certainly
be
doesn't have follow through
incarcerated.
with their protections of Muslims? The UK or America or certainly France. France is actively Islamophobic.
You're funny, my guy.
You don't think France is actively Islamophobic?
First of all, France is, in general, they really don't like foreigners, no matter who you are. I don't know
Especially
if
if
you
they're
paid attention
brown.
to it, but the French are known for that. So it doesn't have to be specifically Islamophobic. It's, in general, they just feel, they
I
feel
think
so
making
pressured
hijabs
by,
illegal is pretty explicitly Islamophobic.
you know, they took so many Syrians and then they got a culture shock. So I think that made them really
Islamophobic.
anti-foreigners in general. They don't even take
They're not
Ukrainians.
that fussed about the Americans moving there.
At the moment, they don't take even Ukrainians. And Poland, on the other hand, doesn't take, of course, the Syrians and take only Ukrainians because they already know that other countries suffer from, you know, terror attacks, rapings, increased crime rates, etc.
I mean, they literally made
So-
hijabs illegal to wear. I don't know how you can argue against this, but what else is? My point is there's mistreatment of minorities
And you know
across
why?
the world.
You know
Right? It's
why
not
they
unique
made
of
it
it's
illegal?
sorry, it's not unique of the Middle East And in fact, the Middle East Islam specifically has doctrinal protections for people of the book, like the Jews and the Christians. What's worn that away, by and large, is political lack of support for the ethno-states of the Jews. And the reason that there's a decreasing population of Jews in these areas, well, by and large, those Jews are going to Israel.
And the main reason
Israel is causing this exodus.
The main reason they're moving to Israel is because they feel super unsafe in these countries. And
they're feeling more. I don't doubt that they feel
anti-Semitism is on the rise.
What I'm saying is they feel more and more
now
unsafe
in the West,
as Israel continues to exist. It's a funny little self-serving loop.
Israel
that
more and more
making
people,
them less safe.
The more people that are like you, that are very pro-Palestinian, are actually the kind of people that make the Jews very fearful of living in the West. And this is why
I entirely
they're
disagree,
moving back
actually.
to
I think
Israel. So
I think Zionists are some of the most anti-Semitic people in the world.
You're doing the reverse effect of not welcoming the Jews in your places, but rather being, anti-Israeli.
I'm sorry. I actually think the best... Sorry, let me just correct you there. I actually think the best solution to this issue, right? I think the best state solution would be for the Western powers to put their money where their mouth is and accept Jewish immigrants from Israel. So no, I actually entirely disagree. I would love to see lots of Jewish immigrants from Israel into America, my home.
You know what's funny?
Because we are the ones that are claiming to protect Jews, so we should take it into our own hands. I would love to see more Jewish immigrants into America.
And
right? Once again, I'll repeat what I've said before. I have Jewish heritage and I have a massive amount of respect for the Jewish tradition. I have no hate in my heart for Jews at all. And actually, I would love to see more Jewish immigrants into America because we
Israelis are actually
support Israel. We
claim
claim to support Israel. We claim to support Israel for the protection of Jews. Right. But then we don't put our money where our mouth is and accept them. And also a huge amount of Israelis do have American passports anyway, American or Western passports anyway. So it's not that big of an issue anyway.
Okay. Do you know that roughly 60%, I think it's about 65 or 80% of the Jewish population in Israel are actually Moroccan,
Mizrahi?
Iraqi.
What?
Yeah, they're Mizrahi Jews. That's right.
I know your talking points like boom, 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 boom,
so
because you need to learn something new. I know they're Mizrahi, right? But that has nothing to do with what we were just saying. Can you connect that to what you just said?
Of course, because you just told me that they can just use their passports and go immigrate to the West.
No. I said I would love to see them immigrate west, and a lot of them are dual citizens. I believe it actually is one of the largest dual citizen populations of any country.
That's right, but it still amounts to roughly 15%.
So you're not disputing anything I'm saying. So you're following points, like your script is not retorting anything I'm saying.
I don't have.
Can you actually disagree with me on something rather than just pivoting all over the place?
I'm just saying my opinions. I don't have any script here.
Oh, you're not actually having a discussion?
I'm having a discussion. I don't have any script.
You're just saying your opinions, though. Can you actually talk back and forth with me?
Of course. Go ahead.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Cool. So you accused me of being anti-Semitic, which I find quite detestable. Right?
I think everyone here.
You said I didn't want to see Jews move into.
I'm not saying like
brother,
you might not be
anti-Semitic cities in the world.
as you put it off, but it does seem so.
Okay. This is a classic Zionist move. They will claim anything anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic. It's utter nonsense. Okay, how do you explain the anti-Semitic Zionist?
Wait, you're an anti-Zionist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what anti-Zionism means? That you essentially don't want any state of Israel to exist, or any Jewish state.
No, I don't want any Jewish ethno-state in Israel to exist.
Okay, so, That's one point to have. So, is it okay for 57 majority Muslim states to exist?
Majority of certain ethnicity is very different than a ethno-state. But I support. Sorry, I'll correct your question and then I'll answer it in the way that's correct.
Let's go down there. 35 ethno-Muslim states. Right?
Do I support Arab ethno-states?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Given the fact that there are
So wait, so am I anti-Semitic yet?
given the fact that there
Sorry, answer my question. I answered yours. Am I anti-Semitic yet for that view?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
And
prove it to me. If I don't
I'll
want
tell you
Muslim
the main reason
ethnostates, and I
for
don't
it.
want Arab ethnostates, and I don't want Jewish ethnostates, and I don't
Okay.
want Christian ethnostates, why where's my anti-Semitism?
Okay, I'm also, first of all, not pro any ethnostate here whatsoever.
Okay, explain
but-
my anti. So we agree then. You don't want a Jewish
Okay,
ethnostate in the
but
area either, right?
in my opinion, and I hope you don't take it too far, but in
No,
my
I don't
opinion,
care about your opinion. Give me where I'm anti-Semitic.
okay, so
Tell me where I hate my grandfather.
the reason I think that you're anti-Semitic is because, given the fact that there are at least 35 ethno-Muslim states, and in the land of Israel, almost 3000 BC, there are artifacts that prove that Jews have lived in that area. Okay.
Yeah, and there are
That's
also
way
artifacts
before-
that the Palestinians.
That's
well, sorry,
way
I'm just going to correct
before
you. It's also
Muslims
hereditarily
existed.
the Muslim and Christian homeland, and there have been Muslims and
That's
Christians living there
incorrect.
for about
That's
as long.
incorrect. The Quran has only been invented roughly 1,500 years ago. So take that. Why
So
does
take that. Is that your level of argumentation? Do you not think that I know where Islam came from?
tell
Also,
me why?
a religion doesn't constitute a people's, right? A people's
Okay,
constitutes
why-
a people's. And you realize that the Canaanites, right, of whom the Jews are descendants, are also the ancestors of a lot of the Palestinians. So when you point to the fact that Canaanites lived in that area, right? Yeah, the Canaanites did live in that area. And a lot of the Palestinians can actually trace their lineage much closer to the Canaanites, right?
That's
Than a lot of
correct.
the Ashkenazi, specifically Jews, can.
Ashkenazi Jews are, again, not from the area as Mizrahi Jews.
Mizrahi, Sephardi, don't really care. All of them came through the Exodus, right? And when you talk about their relationship with the Canaanites, the Palestinians, if you do genetic testing, actually can prove Canaanite relationships a lot more. So, what's your point?
Islam didn't exist 1,500 years ago.
Yeah, but the
On
people
the
that
other
became
hand,
Muslim did.
Judaism exists already for roughly 5,500 years, and there are enough proofs to show that the Jews did live in this area. So I don't understand why there can be 57
I don't think there should be.
Muslim countries around, with the one tiny state at the size of New Jersey, that being the huge problem in the Middle East.
The one tiny state in one of the most diplomatically and militarily advantageous positions in the world. The one tiny state
How is it
that is
advantageous having
supported
such a
by the
tiny
West
state? Tell me.
unilaterally. Sorry,
Tell me,
I'd love to be able
Egypt
to
doesn't
get
have a
sentence.
way bigger advantage?
You're accusing me of being anti-Semitic, and I would love to get a sentence in. I'll do it this way, because you seem to like your own voice being heard much more than hearing anyone else's. Do I support Arab
your voice as well. I just wanted
We're
to
going to
state
do a little quiz
facts.
here. We're going to do a little quiz here. Do
Let's
I
go for it.
support Arab ethnostates?
You said no?
Okay. Do I support any ethnostates?
You said no?
Okay.
I'm going by what you
So
said.
then is it okay, if I don't support any of those, is it any more or less anti-Semitic for me than not to support a Jewish ethnostate?
I'm not saying for you not to support a Jewish ethnostate. As of now, it isn't a real ethnostate because it's actually the only country in the world that accepts freely Jews, Catholics, Christians, Muslims, and the list goes on.
So I'm asking. I
technically,
believe
Israel
so. I do not
isn't the
support Israel.
ethnostate
Sorry.
you're making it to
So I'd
be,
love the good
unlike
answer. I love the good
Unlike
question.
the 35
You said it wanted to be a
ethno-Muslim
Jewish
states.
state. You said it was a Jewish ethno-state. Okay. You're now backing off on it. But I'll just say, I
The
believe
thing
it to be
is
an
that the
ethno.
government
So,
right
sorry.
now is very
But
far right.
you've been on so many
That doesn't
monologues,
make it an
Lennon.
ethno-state.
Lennon, I need you to stop speaking.
Go for it.
Are you an adult, Lennon?
I'm 25, so I would consider.
Can we act
myself
like
an
it?
adult. My guy, the only one that doesn't act like it here is you. But do whatever you want.
I mean, I'm not the one monologuing and continuing to interrupt.
Okay, go for it. Talk. I'm
Can
muting
you stop
myself.
interrupting every time I speak? That would be really appreciated. Is that possible, Lennon? I'd love an affirmative.
Go for it.
Can you not? Can you tell me you're going to stop interrupting me, Lennon?
As long as you'll not stop interrupting me, let's go for it.
Wonderful. I agree. So I don't support ethno-states. Israel is an ethno-state, so I don't support it. Is that anti-Semitic?
Before I answer your question, what makes Israel an ethno-state in your opinion?
The fact that it was founded to be an ethno-state. So the original Zionist movement, right, Herzl, claimed that it would be an ethno-state. The underlying reason and explanation for the law of return that they passed was it for it to be an ethno-state, and still they maintain that they require a Jewish majority. If part of your national interest is to maintain a certain majority of an ethnicity, you are an ethno-state. Do you contend any of those facts or any of those conclusions?
First of all, Israel doesn't plan to have a majority Jewish population, even though it's, of course, right now has, because of the far-right government that, in the end of the day, they encourage ultra-Orthodox Jews to have more children. But other than that part, there is nowhere that, having bigger families or whatever, gives you a benefit over others.
Have you seen the Israeli flag?
Of course, it has a Magen David.
Does the Israeli flag maybe represent an ethnicity?
The Magen David is a symbol of protection.
A Jewish symbol of protection.
Of course, it's a Jewish symbol of protection, and white has a Jewish symbol of protection because the Jews, let me maybe educate you, because you might have forgotten that World War II wasn't like a long time ago, but Jews in general were seeked after and slaughtered in the millions. And since then, all the Jews wanted is to find a land to be and live peacefully.
And Zionism and its concept existed prior to World War II. Let's just be very clear. But so why I believe
it did exist prior
to
World War. That's correct. It did exist prior to World War
Okay, cool.
II.
Great. So I love keeping promises. That's what I prefer.
Don't interrupt me.
What people do.
You told me you'll not interrupt me, right? So the thing is,
you would literally interrupt it. Wait, Lennon, you started speaking while I was speaking. You interrupted me.
I spoke and you spoke on me, my guy.
While I was
Anyway, I'll finish it.
You unmuted while I was speaking. You unmuted while I was speaking. Right?
Anyway,
and then
it's super fast.
What?
It's super fast.
No, not super fast. No, I'm going to continue speaking. What? No.
Go for it.
You're such Are you kidding me?
Okay, if you want to act like a child,
I'm a gay man, but I am a gay man, but I get so sick of men, bro.
Will.
Now I know how women feel. Jesus Christ. You really tried to gaslight me into thinking.
I don't try to gaslight you.
I was the one interrupting? What are you talking about?
Go ahead.
What are you talking about, Lennon? Oh, you said you wouldn't interrupt me. You unmuted yourself. What are you talking about? Okay. It's obviously an ethno-state. You aren't you don't become an ethno-state if you only give the immediate right of return to Jews, right? You can't be like, oh, I'm not an ethno-state, if literally you have a Jewish symbol on your flag, right? Saudi Arabia is obviously an ethno-state, right? They have a Muslim and Saudi symbol on their flag. Duh, right? The right of return was one of the quickest laws to pass in Israel, right?
So you
And
want
one of
to
the
tell me
earliest
that
laws to pass. This is
you
hilarious.
want to tell me that
This is getting
Switzerland,
comical.
Georgia
This is getting
are
comical.
ethnostates, essentially, because they have a symbol of Christ. That's not how it works.
You don't think Judaism? Okay,
It's pure
wait. You don't think
stupidity.
You don't think Israel is an ethno-state, right? Explain the law of return.
The law of return is for Jews to safely be able to live in a place. Now, that doesn't mean that Arabs can't live there, that Christians can't live there, etc., etc. All it means is that Jews, if they feel unsafe in another country, they can feel safe that they have a place that will accept them for them to live
Okay.
peacefully.
Explain it being a interest of national importance to maintain a
It's
Jewish
like you're
majority,
telling me,
as
hey,
has
now
been,
Germany is a fucking
I'm just gonna
ethno-state because
say
they're
this,
accepting
as has been
Syrians.
stated by every single government of Israel for the past 70 years. Every single government of Israel has, in one way or another, verbatim stated that maintaining a Jewish majority was an interest of national security.
That's
Do you
incorrect.
deny that?
That's incorrect.
In what period? So for the past 20
In the past
years under
12
Bibi
years,
for the
roughly,
past
under
20
Bibi
years under Bibi
Netanyahu,
Netanyahu, it's been an interest.
Under Bibi Netanyahu, that is correct.
Okay, so is it an ethno-state right now?
It isn't an ethno-state, but it is in the interest of Bibi Netanyahu. That's one prime minister.
Yeah, and it's been the national interest the whole time. The original
that's
Zionists,
incorrect.
right? Herzl
His
literally said it was
popularity-
a Jewish state. Herzl, do
You
you
know
deny
that-
that Herzl? Okay, do you deny that Herzl wanted to establish a Jewish state?
Herzl wanted to establish a Jewish state. That's correct.
Okay, if you describe something as a
not a
Jewish
Jewish
state, is that an
state, but a
ethno?
state
Sorry,
which Jews
sorry,
could
no.
feel
If it is a
protected.
Jewish state, does that make it an ethno-state?
He wanted a state that Jews would feel safe at.
He wanted a Jewish state. You said that. If he wanted a Jewish state, does that make it an ethno-state?
Not necessarily. Depends how you plan it out. If it's only for Jews, then yeah. But it wasn't only for Jews.
Bro, what are you talking about? Brother in Christ, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, literally, what are you talking about? The point of an ethno-state is not that every other one can't exist. It's that they need a majority. It's to maintain power of one ethnicity over another.
There is no rules making Jews needing to be.
Okay, why do they deny the
numbers.
Nakba refugees? Why do they deny the Nakba refugees? What's the explicitly stated reason that for the past 50 years they've denied the Nakba refugees?
First of all, that's incorrect. Most of the refugees have been in, like most. You know that Israel is roughly with nine.
I'd love an answer to the
9.5
question that
million
I
people.
asked first.
Yeah, so they haven't.
So answer it.
They haven't. There are actually roughly.
They haven't denied the Nakba refugees?
There are almost 3 million Arabs that are now called Arab Israelis living in Israel. The ones that aren't in Israel are actually the ones that were on their own will going to the Egyptian part of Gaza or the Jordanian part of the West Bank. So essentially they were part of Gaza, that was Egypt, or the West Bank, that was Jordan. Now, Israel doesn't accept them anymore as it's already not under their control. It's not their responsibility to take these people back. But, you know, they decided to go that way. The ones that didn't decide to go that way are living here peacefully.
So you suggesting that no one got kicked out of the area that now
No, they
constitute
didn't.
Israel, integral Israel?
No, they didn't. And actually, I even have, it's funny, but I have my grandma's like papers to prove that she actually bought her house from Palestinians, and they essentially sold it to her in order to leave. And that's the case for most of the places. Of course, there were maybe some tensions of force in all kinds of different places, but it was
I'm going to ask again, and
small
then I'm just going to
minority.
kick you. Sorry. You are saying
Did you know that
that
in
no.
the Gaza
Sorry,
area,
just stop speaking for like 2
in
seconds
the
because
very
you aren't the
beginning, there
only
was
person.
roughly only
Sorry,
30,000
catch a bubble, love.
Palestinians, right?
Do we know
And
how to
right
catch a
now there are 2
bubble?
million.
Take a bubble, put it in your mouth, and stop speaking. Are you suggesting that no one got kicked out of, during times of war, places that now constitute integral Israel? Is that your view?
In times of war, it's a whole different topic.
That's when the Nakba happened. What are
No,
you talking about? That's
you're
when the Nakba happened.
you're
A
talking
time of
about
war.
1948, or you're talking about 1967?
Talking about the Nakba, brother.
When did the Nakba happen? Tell me.
During 1948, 1949, brother.
Good. The Nakba was essentially a force that the Arabs caused.
Can you answer my question?
Yeah. In
Okay,
every
do that.
war, there are displaced people.
Can you answer the question?
Go for it.
I asked you a question, you didn't answer it.
If there were
Did you hear the question
displaced,
I asked you?
if there were displaced
Did you hear the
Palestinians,
question that I asked you?
if there were displaced Palestinians during the Nakba, that's correct.
Okay. You recognize that those people were not just from the West Bank and Gaza Strip.
That it really depends which area they were, but if they were from the Gaza part that moved closer to where the
I love
Gaza
a
Strip
direct
is right
answer.
now,
Do you
then
recognize?
yes.
I'm going to ask the question one more time, and we all can hear in this live. We've shown that multiple times. Were there Palestinians that were forced out of their home from areas that now constitute integral Israel?
Okay, let me answer it fully, and please don't
Start with a yes or
interrupt.
no and then go forward.
Okay. The answer is yes,
Cool.
but it's the exact same as what Israel did. A few years later, down the road, Israel moved all the Israeli settlers in the Gaza Strip, took even out the graves of Israelis from the Gaza Strip, just to make peace and make sure that the Arabs have their own place.
Good answer.
So from both
Cool.
sides.
So the thing about that is they did it because they didn't. So let's talk about let's talk about the Nakba a bit more, because once again, whataboutism 2.0. If there were people displaced from their homes during war, do you know what the right of return is?
Okay, I have a question. If there were
I feel like I
Israelis-
just asked a question, but if
if
you
Israelis, no, I'll ask the same question. Do the Israelis have a right to go back to the Arab countries, or to Gaza, to their homes, or to the West Bank where they settled?
settlers don't have the right of return.
Okay, so why do Arab settlers have the right to return?
because that is their indigenous home.
That is incorrect. The indigenous homes are actually from the Jews. And here you make the
Do you
mistake.
believe the Jews are the only descendants of the Canaanites?
Here, I caught you red-handed. Like,
Do you
that's
believe
the
the
fact
Jews
that you
are
have
the
wrong.
only descendants of the Canaanites?
No, I don't. But they
Okay,
are
are the
actually the
Palestinians
first.
also descendants of the Canaanites, by and large?
For some reason, I hardly hear you. I don't know why. Can you repeat
Are
it?
the Palestinians also descendants of the Canaanites, by and large?
Sorry, my connection is cut off. Okay, here, I'm back. That's it.
Okay, I'll ask you the third time. Are the Palestinians also descendants of the Canaanites, by and large?
Arabs, yeah, but first of all, like, you need to take one thing should be clear here. The Palestinians that are now calling themselves Palestinians aren't, for the most part, like, the Israelis are Palestinians as well, technically. They just changed their name to Israelis once the British mandate changed to Israel.
That's not entirely accurate, but regardless, people have called
entirely
themselves
accurate.
Sorry, people have called them. Different peoples have called themselves Israelis throughout history, right? The Samaritans have called themselves Israelis. But
when
once
the
again, sorry, I'm just gonna I'm gonna take that. So, do all descendants of the Canaanites have a right to the Canaanite land?
I think so.
Yeah. So the Palestinians have the right to that whole entire Canaanite land just as much as the Jews do.
And the peaceful ones are living in Israel just fine.
You believe that they have a native right to it?
I don't think they have a native right to it, but they can, of course.
Why does any descendant of Canaan not have a native right to this land?
Okay, tell me, why doesn't the Canaanites, the Jewish Canaanites, have a right to go back to Egypt and to go back to Jordan?
I think, well, because those aren't the lands of Canaan?
They did go a bit over the Sinai Desert, and they did go over the Dead Sea.
Not by and large, right? So by and large, the lands of Canaan do not include
by and
most
large,
of Jordan.
but there is a certain area that they've went through that Israelis now are barred out, and that's the truth. So
Not
I don't
entirely,
understand.
but if you could prove, sorry, I'm just going to make my position really clear.
Why can't
by and large,
maybe
sorry, 1 second. By and large, those are not the lands of Canaan, right? The lands of Canaan, or at least they aren't the claims that Israel's claiming, right? So the important claim here is who is the proper descendants of the lands of Israel and of Judea, right? So the split kingdom of Israel is what I'm referring to as the descendants of Canaan. Okay. Those are the hereditary descendants that they take. But I'll make my position really general and really clear. If you can prove a historical homeland of your peoples, you should be able to live there.
Okay.
Right?
And Israel
so if Jews can prove a
times.
historical homeland in Jordan, right? 1 second. Sorry. If Israelis or if Jews can prove
Israelis have proved it countless of times.
To prove a historical homeland in Jordan, they have just as much a right to be there as anyone else, and that's my view. But the thing is we're talking about Israel, so let's talk about Israel for a second. We know that a lot of Palestinians can prove a historical homeland in. Oh, did you get a call? Let's run this. It's unfortunate. Okay. I'm going to take 2 seconds. I'm going to go get water. And and then I'll be back. Slay? Okay, I'll be back in music. Love you all. In that time, I upload these to YouTube. I did one yesterday. I'm going to upload this one. Follow me up here. That'd be great. Follow me up here if you don't already. And follow my YouTube. My YouTube is linked in my bio. So if you want to take this time to go do that, then come back. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Hello.
Hi, how old are you?
I am 57, and you?
Yeah, if you're 57, then why have you been shitposting calling me smelly in the comments?
You know, because you think yourself too much. You think that you are smart. You are a very young person, not because your age, because you're arrogant.
I think it's difficult for me to
And you
think you're
think
smart when
yourself,
you have been
you think
shitposting calling me
yourself,
smelly in the comments.
yeah, because I never see you now. You give me back to come inside, yeah. But you don't want to listen to other opinion. You think yourself too much. You have a
I'm willing
live
to
of
listen to
700
people,
people.
not shit
No,
posters.
you think, you are very smart. You think you're very smart, but you are very stupid because you don't have any knowledge. And you spread lie on 700 people now, and they hear your lie. Some believe you, some not. But I want to give you a few facts about history.
Here's the thing. Sorry, if you want to speak to 700 people, that means I also have to. I don't reward, shit talkers. I don't reward spam commenters, and I certainly
Give me
don't
to say
reward
something. Give me. I
57.
nervous you. I know
Sorry,
that. I know that.
and I don't reward 57-year-olds that insult people like 7-year-olds. If you're going to insult me, at least insult me intelligently, right? Like I hope I just did by bringing you up and embarrassing you. So much love. Have the day you deserve. And I guess in your own words, ooh, stinky smelly. Oh, he got kicked. Thank you so much for the people who followed me. Is this guy loading? Let's see if he eventually loads. Anyway. Thank you so much for the gifts, by the way. Helped a lot, quite a lot. Let's see if any of these people load. Where are they?
I will say, it makes it easier for me if you have a guess. Like, if you have something in your bio that could tell me your stance. Easier for me. Yes. Oh, okay.
Yo, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, I can.
Okay, I've been here for like an hour. I can go through everything. First of all, you talk about the Canaanites, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, yes, 30 to 60% of the Palestinians are descendants of the Jews, right?
You've confused the Canaanites and the Jews.
No. Well, I'll get there. But 30 to 60% of them are descendants of the Jews. But
Not necessarily.
indigenous.
Also, wait.
No, I'm giving you stats.
How old are you, Ronnie?
I'm 18.
What year were you born?
October 2005.
Oh, he's 16. That's unfortunate.
No, I'm not.
Sorry, but
I've been here
bye.
for.
Hello?
Hello. Hi, would you send a guest request to disagree on?
I don't disagree with you. I'm an archaeologist and I'm also was a professor.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really
Definitely don't disagree with you. What was his name from Israel?
I don't know.
Lenin? And the Jewish religion does not go back 5,000 years. For one.
Yeah, no, he's lying.
Yeah. Number two, all of the Judeo-Christian Muslim religions are based on previous religions like ancient Egypt, Sumerian, all of those things. Okay? When they were supposedly coming out of Egypt, the golden calf, that was the goddess Hathor. Okay? I live in Belgium, where we have a very large Jewish population, Hasidic, in Antwerp. And they say, not in our name. Absolutely not in our name. My godmother was Palestinian Christian. She escaped Palestine.
The sites.
She escaped Palestine in 1967. And I dare anyone to sit there and say about the atrocities that are being committed. I'm sorry. My godmother's name is Sheree, and it is even what they do to Christians, even to this day. They don't talk about it a lot, but I'm sure you know. Obviously, you know your stuff. You know what you're talking about already. You already know what you're talking about. They spit on Christians. It doesn't matter if they're Palestinian Jew, Palestinian Christian, Palestinian Muslim. It doesn't matter. If they're Palestinian, they're going to hate them. It's the fact that they're not white or the right color. As long as they're from white and in the right part of the world that they come from, that's what matters to them. Ask an Israeli if they're Jewish and they come from Eritrea, Ethiopia, some of the surrounding. They are treated less than a white Jew. Ask them. Those people are treated as vile as they treat like the Palestinians. How were they treating the Thai people that were working for them. Ask them how they treat those people. They don't treat them with respect, with humanity. They're disposable. Just like in America, how many ethnicities are, quote unquote, disposable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true. Well, hey, I'm going to try and look for someone who disagrees. But I
Okay,
appreciate you
that's
coming up
fine.
and
That's
sharing
fine.
that,
I
yeah.
just the thing about the religion being over that fired me up, and the fact that sitting there saying it's equal and that is such, pardon my language, that is such bullshit. Such bullshit. Anyway,
Absolutely.
you
Peace
are
out.
yes, you're amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Bye. Peace. Actually, I'm just gonna get off because I'm tired. And I need to rest because of this. So, but I love you all. Slay the day. And I'll probably be on later tonight. Probably. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But okay. Slay. I'm gonna upload this on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for everyone who sent gifts. Thank you so much to everyone who followed. Follow me up here. Follow my YouTube. It's linked to my bio. And yeah, go do the good work. Bye. I'll give just everyone a second. I've never not heard you when I hear Slay. Carried.